Chapter 671, Sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada. Half a month later, Fang Yuan went to Langya Blessed Land again. It was foggy in front of him, it was a scene of white, among the turbulent cloud sea, 12 cloud buildings were motionless. Many large rivers resembling dragons were flowing above the cloud soil. After Tai Bai Yunsheng's restoration, Langya Blessed Land had returned to its former state. All West ch. Point. Rs on n.o/v. L. I/n/c. M. Fang Yuan was brought into a cloud building, meeting Langya Land Spirit. Langya Land Spirit still had layers of Chi Path seals. But there were originally 18 layers of seals. Under the Inkman King's help, 3 layers were removed, only 15 were left. Inkman King stood beside Langya Land Spirit. He did not dare to act arrogantly in front of Fang Yuan. He greeted first, "Sir Fang Yuan, how have you been?" Fang Yuan smiled at him, his protruding fangs made his smile look very scary. He turned to look at Langya Land Spirit, tossing a rank 4 East Window Gu towards him. "Look." East Window Gu was floating silently before Langya Land Spirit. Langya Land Spirit could not stretch out his arms, but Fang Yuan lent him the East Window Gu so his consciousness could enter it. After checking the contents, he nodded in satisfaction, praising, "Not bad, quite impressive. You completely deduced these 3 immortal Gu recipes. Incredible, this thought process is spectacular. Land Spirit, I did not come here personally to listen to your rubbish." Fang Yuan interrupted Langya Land Spirit rudely, pointing out his intention. Langya Land Spirit was not stupid, he willed and summoned 30 immortal essence stones. "This is your remuneration." Fang Yuan took these immortal essence stones and placed it in his immortal aperture. His earnings this time was not as much as previously. That was because deducing these immortal Gu recipes cost him 6 green grape immortal essence beads. If not for the Stargate which was already built, he would have to waste another 2 green grape immortal essence beads, raising his cost to 8. Even though these immortal Gu recipes were also remnant recipes with at least 90% completion rate, each of them needed in-depth analysis. Some immortal Gu recipes were very hard to deduce, there were hurdles one after another. When he thought with his brain, he would expend more wills. But even so, the profits were still immense. Inkman King used an envious gaze and watched the two finish their transaction, before smiling. "Sir Fang Yuan, actually, each transaction need not be done using immortal essence stones, right? Over here in Langya Blessed Land, there are lots of good stuff that cannot be found in Treasure Yellow Heaven. We can do trading. To speak the truth, my Inkman city has some precious goods that Sir might be interested in. Not long ago, your senior brother Tai Bai Yunsheng had bought a killer move from me." Inkman King saw that Fang Yuan had ample funds and wanted to do business with him. Fang Yuan heard this and smiled. "Inkman King's suggestion is great. I lack 3 small swamp Gu, and 6 Pine Island Gu, I wonder if you have them." This problem stumped Inkman King. He showed an awkward expression. "I am ashamed, this is the first time I've heard of Small Swamp and Pine Island. These are all olden antiquity Gu worms. Little Swamp Gu can change the terrain, forming a small swamp. Pine Island is the same, it can create a floating island on top of the sea. There is a huge tree in the middle of the island, the tree roots would extend and hold the soil together." Langya Land Spirit explained. Next, he asked Fang Yuan curiously, "These Gu worms have all been eliminated from use, right now, Gu immortals have better and cheaper ways to change the terrain of the Blessed Land. Why do you want these Gu worms?" "You don't need to ask about my intention, from your tone, I assume you have these Gu worms in Langya Blessed Land?" Fang Yuan asked mysteriously. "Of course." Langya Land Spirit raised his head, saying arrogantly, "Every time I obtain a new Gu recipe, I will refine a few Gu worms to keep them as collection. I have up to 100 little swamp goo and pine island goo as collection, I can sell them to you. But the materials to refine these goo worms are now all extinct. You will need to pay an immortal essence stone. Goods were more expensive when they were rare, little swamp goo and pine island goo were not even sold in treasure yellow heaven. Fang Yuan had no hesitation, he tossed an immortal essence stone to Xianxia land spirit and obtained 3 little swamp goo and 6 pine island goo. Next, he looked at Xianxia land spirit curiously. Strange, you collect so many goo worms, how do you settle the issue of feeding them? Fang Yuan had been troubled these days over the feeding of goo worms, especially the immortal goo that he had. Xianxia land spirit gave him the answer, the problem of feeding mortal goo is easy, just create a special environment and let them hibernate. But you can't do this for immortal goo, even if they hibernate, you need to feed them, but the food that you feed them will be halved compared to normal times. This answer was a little disappointing to Fang Yuan. Can you go into detail? He asked. I believe you have gone to 88 True Yang Building's True Inheritance Secluded Domain, right? True Inheritance Secluded Domain is a special environment, it can cause goo worms to hibernate, mortal goo will not need to be fed, and immortal goo's feeding cost would be greatly reduced. Fang Yuan frowned, even so, True Inheritance Secluded Domain has so many immortal goo, I do not believe that 88 True Yang Building can obtain so much resources every 10 years to feed these immortal goo. That is because Giant Sun Immortal Venerable used food path methods. Food path is a very secretive path, it is solely for the research on how to feed goo worms, variant humans, wild beasts, and even humans, these very tough questions. Don't ask me questions about food path, I have no idea. The immortal goo that I have area all fed in the most traditional way. Fang Yuan did not give up, back then, your main body and Giant Sun Immortal Venerable refined 88 True Yang Building together, would you not know the food path methods that he used? Xianxia land spirit rolled his eyes, the main body had once made an oath with Giant Sun Immortal Venerable to not reveal any information regaining the food path methods. This is a huge secret, actually, I want to know about it too. But in the memories that I inherited, there is no such information. Fang Yuan nodded, he knew that land spirits were upright and would never lie, he was only asking casually. Although he had completed the transaction, Fang Yuan did not leave yet, he had another objective in coming here. He took out a star shoot goo, placing it before Xianxia land spirit. Can you reverse refine the recipe of this goo? Xianxia land spirit could not stretch out his hands, he could only sniff this star shoot goo, saying, this goo had obviously been tampered with, the goo recipe is very hard to recreate, at the very least, a refinement grandmaster is needed. With just this rank 3-star path goo, it is impossible to reverse refine its recipe. Because this is a new goo, it will need to be researched and that would result in some costs. Fang Yuan smiled, stretching out his right palm, showing 5 fingers, I have over 5,000 star shoot goo. Star shoot goo was a necessary goo worm in formulating the killer move Spring Star Rain. Fang Yuan tried using it once and found that the killer move was very effective. He had bought so many star shoot goo at once, he had the intention to reverse refine it. But right now, his intention was even stronger. 5,000, of course I can reverse refine the recipe. What a pity, I am currently sealed, I can't do anything. Xianxia land spirit sighed. Fang Yuan frowned, this cheap path seal still has 15 layers, how long would it take to remove them all? At least a year. Inkman King said. So long. No choice, this seal is definitely an immortal killer move, the more it is unsealed, the more difficult it becomes. Inkman King showed a bitter laughter. Long Hair Ancestor was one of the 3 supreme grandmasters in refinement path history, their names were contained in legends. Xianxia land spirit's current refinement path realm was at least refinement grandmaster level. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan was only a refinement path master. If he could get Langya Land's spirit to help, that would be the best. But now that Langya Land's spirit was sealed, he could not refine Gu, and would not be able to refine the recipe. Actually, it is not impossible to refine the recipe. Inkman King suggested, Langya Blessed Land has many old hairy men, right? These old hairy men all have refinement master attainment. By then, let them work for the land spirit while Langya Land spirit directs them personally, wouldn't that work? Langya Land spirit rolled his eyes at Inkman King, an outsider's silly words. Refinement path is profound and deep, many methods and killer moves require the relevant wisdom, cultivation, and talent, as well as huge amounts of practice. Do you think that many refinement masters would add up to one refinement grandmaster? Bullshit. Inkman King was scolded till he was stunned, but he only laughed and did not dare to rebuke. In that case, forget it. When you are unsealed, we'll talk about it. Fong Yuan said his goodbye, turning around and leaving. This matter was not urgent at the moment. Lad, even if I am unsealed, I will not refine it for you for free. Prepare 3 immortal essence stones. Langya Land spirit shouted towards Fong Yuan who was leaving. Fong Yuan did not turn around, he waved his hand as he stepped into the Stargate, vanishing. Humph, rascal kid. Langya Land spirit watched him disappear as he muttered. After Fong Yuan returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land, he entered Dang Hun Palace, starting on the matter of sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada. He had already obtained small Swamp Gu and Pine Island Gu, these were the final missing pieces. 7 days and 7 nights later, Fong Yuan planted large numbers of Gu worms on his first aperture as well as the area around his stomach. These Gu worms' effects were interlinked, they amplified each other and formed a strong seal. On one hand, they helped the first aperture to alleviate Spring-Autumn Cicada's pressure. On the other hand, they expelled Spring-Autumn Cicada's partial aura towards the outside of his body after some modifications. Thirdly, and most importantly, the seal would not affect the activation of Spring-Autumn Cicada. This seal can last for 4 years. This way, I have resolved the problem of Spring-Autumn Cicada bursting the first aperture for the time being. Fong Yuan checked that there was no problem and sighed in relief. This tough problem was finally settled, he felt a pressure lifting off his shoulders. The process of sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada was not easy. After all, he was using mortal Gu to seal an immortal Gu, Fong Yuan's soul was so exhausted it faded slightly. After succeeding in the sealing, Fong Yuan fell asleep, not wanting to get out of bed for 3 days. Chapter 672, Difficult Problem of Feeding Immortal Gu. 3 days later, Fong Yuan slowly woke up. His heart was in serenity, he did not feel tired or restless anymore. It seems that the zombie body cannot compare to a live physical body in one more aspect, that is, not only does my soul gets weakened more easily, it also is more prone to agitation. Fong Yuan found another drawback of the zombie body. If the soul was weak, it could be easily resolved by using Guts Gu to strengthen his soul. There were many Guts Gu on Dang Hun Mountain, these were all items of the highest quality for strengthening his soul. But the irritation of the soul required pacifying the soul. The best way to pacify the soul was to use the Bewitching Lake's water, found in Obsession Death Domain. This water was recorded in The Legends of Renzu, it was praised by Verdant Great Sun as an excellent wine. Fong Yuan did not have the waters of Bewitching Lake, but even if he did, he would not dare to drink it. He used the ancient method, the most effective one, sleeping. U updates. TN. vel/by. .com. If I had a normal person's body, I would just need to rest for a while in order to pacify the irritation in my soul. But after becoming a zombie, I would need to sleep for 3 days straight. Soul path involves strengthening the soul, refining the soul, and pacifying the soul, these 3 aspects, but most soul path Gu masters focus on the first 2. Now that I think about it, that should be because sleeping is an excellent way to pacify the soul, thus they did not need to invest in this aspect. After sealing Spring-Autumn Cicada, Fang Yuan gained a deeper understanding of soul path. Next, he calculated this month's balance. After dealing with Xianxia land spirit twice, he earned 60 immortal essence stones. But he also spent a lot. In Treasure Yellow Heaven, he bought more than 1,000 Starlight Firefly Gu, the Killer Move Spring Star Rain, Icy Yarn and 6-9 Stardust, large amounts of Gu refinement materials, large numbers of Mortal Gu, as well as a group of old hairy men. And finally, to seal Spring-Autumn Cicada, he bought small Swamp Gu and Pine Island Gu. He spent a total of 20 immortal essence stones. Right now, Fang Yuan had 30.5 immortal essence stones left. Do not think that this was a lot of immortal essence stones. Fang Yuan also spent much of his green grape immortal essence. When deducing immortal Gu recipes, he could only do it by himself. The first time he traded with Xianxia land spirit, he only had 9 green grape immortal essence beads left. After the second deduction, he spent 6 immortal essence beads, and improving the sealing method on Spring-Autumn Cicada consumed 1 bead. Right now he had 2 beads left. It was necessary to improve Spring-Autumn Cicada's seal. Earlier, his estimated cost was 23 immortal essence stones. After the improvement, it fell to 20. This way, he saved 2 immortal essence stones. Only having 2 beads of green grape immortal essence left was very dangerous. If he met with a mishap, Fang Yuan would only be able to use Myriad Self twice before he would be unable to deal with the situation, especially now, when Immortal Crane's sect was close to attacking. Fang Yuan used 15 immortal essence stones, converting them into his own green grape immortal essence. This way, his green grape immortal essence rose to 17 beads, while his immortal essence stones fell to 15.5 pieces. Right now, the crisis with Spring-Autumn Cicada's aperture had been temporarily resolved. And his predicament was also relieved after allying with He Lulan. Dealing with Xianxia land spirit earned him huge amounts of immortal essence stones. It was the source of the strength to resolve Fang Yuan's problems. The absolutely terrible situation was alleviated slightly. It was like a land of darkness with dark clouds looming. After Fang Yuan's immense efforts, he managed to create an opening, allowing sunlight to pierce into the land of darkness. Right now in front of him was another problem, and this problem had to be resolved quickly. That was the feeding of immortal Gu. Fang Yuan was not worried about feeding mortal Gu. But feeding immortal Gu was becoming a huge issue. All in all, Fang Yuan had too many immortal Gu. He had Spring-Autumn Cicada, Fixed Immortal Travel, Calamity Beckoning, Delight in Water and Mountain, Worldly Wave Trace, Rising Azure Cloud, Cleanse Soul, Connect Luck, and Woman's Heart. Ordinary Gu immortals did not even have a single immortal Gu. Fang Yuan had 9. This was a great boon, as well as a huge burden. Spring-Autumn Cicada was fine, it consumed the water in the river of time, it did not need feeding. Fixed Immortal Travel was once fed with 1 bead of green grape immortal essence a year ago in Central Continent time, that could last for 6 years. But 1 year in Central Continent was not 1 year of time passing by for Fixed Immortal Travel. During this time it was an Imperial Court blessed land, Fang Yuan's aperture, and Hu Immortal blessed land. All of these had faster time flow than Central Continent. And this 6 years was a theoretical number. The more Fang Yuan activated Fixed Immortal Travel, the more this time would shrink. Right now, although Fixed Immortal Travel could still hold on for a while, it was close to needing to be fed again. The remaining immortal Gu were troublesome. These recent days, Fang Yuan had been investigating and finally obtained crucial information. Calamity Beckoning immortal Gu's food was the black blood of the desolate beast, 6-headed snake. Delight in Water and Mountain immortal Gu needed large amounts of earth chi, water chi, and some laughter stones. Worldly Wave Trace Gu needed tens of thousands of underworld jellyfish, as well as thousands of deep-sea lightning eels. Rising Azure Cloud Gu needed the dragon scale of the desolate beast, Cloud Dragon, as well as tens of thousands of eyeballs from wind scythe birds. Cleanse Soul Immortal Gu needed the flesh and blood of over 10,000 White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu. Connect Luck Immortal Gu needed 5,000 kilograms of sand from the resting area of the ancient desolate beast, Worldly Sand Gull. As for the Poison Path Immortal Gu, Woman's Heart, Xianxia Land Spirit had earlier said that it fed on women's hearts. This Gu combined nurturing and refinement. The more hearts used to feed it, the stronger the poison. Among these Gu worms, Calamity Beckoning Gu was just refined, it already needs feeding and is very weak now. The Immortal Gu, Delight in Water and Mountain and Worldly Wave Trace, are components of the Immortal Gu House Water Pavilion. They have been inside Imperial Court Blessed Land all these years and have been fed well. Cleanse Soul, Connect Luck, Woman's Heart and Rising Azure Cloud were all hibernating inside True Inheritance Secluded Domain. During these many years, Giant Suns will had only fed them half of the resources they needed. Now that they are out of the True Inheritance Secluded Domain, they have woken up fully and are extremely hungry. They need food. Thankfully, I passed Rising Azure Cloud to Xianxia Land Spirit. With him feeding it, it will not die of hunger. I have also left 2 Immortal Gu, Landscape as before and Man as before, with Tai by Yun Sheng. That's his problem to deal with. Fong Yuan analyzed. Even so, the pressure on him was quite intense. Feeding Immortal Gu was not merely a question of immortal essence stones. This world was not like Earth. Earth was a highly commercialized society. As long as one had money, they could buy nearly anything. But in the Gu world, the economy was not developed. There were monopolies in many markets, and countless precious and rare resources. Immortal essence stones were a hard currency, but they could not serve all purposes. For example, looking at the food he needed, the desolate beast's 6-headed snake and cloud dragon, as well as the ancient desolate beast Worldly Sand Gull, they were hard to come by and had great strength equivalent to Gu immortals. Although Treasure Yellow Heaven occasionally sold the flesh, bones and other parts of desolate beasts, they showed up infrequently and would be purchased within moments when they were available in the market. Even Earth Chi and Water Chi were not easy to extract. White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu and Laughter Stones were very rare goods. They were hardly seen in Treasure Yellow Heaven. In contrast, Woman's Heart was much easier to feed. Although it was slightly troublesome, the difficulty was lower. There was another crucial point, that was time. Fong Yuan did not have ample time to slowly prepare these foods. Thus, he had no choice but to purchase these rare resources in Treasure Yellow Heaven, even though this would make the price higher, and Wisdom Path Gu immortals would be left with huge amounts of traces to make their deductions. But Fong Yuan was now known as 8-Arm Immortal. For the time being, no one would connect it to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Even if they would, he had to do this. After all, the survival of the Immortal Gu was much more important than being suspected. Of course, he had asked Xianxia Land Spirit long ago, as well as He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan. Unfortunately he did not get ideal results from them. Xianxia Land Spirit had once owned Laughter Stones, but he had used them up when refining Gu. And several years ago, there was a Gu immortal who returned from Eastern Sea, sending Fairy Li Shan a batch of deep-sea lightning eels. But there were only 100 of them, and they were merely used as ornamental attractions. Later, because Fairy Li Shan did not take good care of them, all of these eels died. But this gave Fong Yuan a reminder. Eastern Sea. In Fong Yuan's previous life, when he was immortal, he traveled over the 5 regions. He went everywhere and had once stayed in Eastern Sea for a while. Eastern Sea had abundant resources, the most in the 5 regions. Even Central Continent could not compare to it. Moreover, over these recent years, Eastern Sea had been in turmoil. There were many opportunities available there, and the benefits would be huge too. If Fang Yuan had not been stuck with Dang Hun Mountain's problem, and due to Tai Bai Yunxing being the easiest path to resolving it, his first choice would have been Eastern Sea. Thinking about Lan Su Blessed Land, Blue Dragon Whale, Rainbow Island and so on, Fang Yuan made his decision. He summoned Tai Bai Yunxing. "Old Bai, how has your cultivation been?" Tai Bai Yunxing laughed heartily. He could not stop talking. "It's great, my progress is very smooth. I helped Xianxia Land Spirit repair his cloud soil and earned 3 immortal essence stones. Next, I restored several rivers and earned another 2 immortal essence stones. I then bought the defensive killer Move 9 Cloud Ring, spending 2 immortal essence stones. Finally, I bought seeds of Float Ball Tea in Treasure Yellow Heaven, spending another stone." Float Ball Tea seeds are very common. You actually spent an entire immortal essence stone. It seems you bought a huge quantity. But your choice is correct. I have seen your blessed land. There are far more time path resources than space path resources. Float Ball Tea grows slowly and floats in the air. You can maximize your advantages and minimize your weaknesses. In a few years, when the Float Ball Tea plants mature, you will be able to reap the harvest and sell them. Fang Yuan evaluated. That is exactly the case. Tai Bai Yunxing patted his leg. "After the Float Ball Tea plants reach a certain scale, I will bring in a group of jade hummingbirds, developing my blessed land with that as the base." Fang Yuan looked at Tai Bai Yunxing, saying, "Jade hummingbirds are mutated beasts, the price of a jade hummingbird group will not be cheap." Tai Bai Yunxing replied calmly, "I have already thought about it. From now on I will use landscape as before to earn immortal essence stones, and learn from Fairy Li Shan's example. I believe my landscape as before is not inferior to Fairy Li Shan's mountain pledge Gu." Fang Yuan nodded. "You have landscape as before Gu, wherever you go, you will be extremely popular." Tai Bai Yunxing sighed. "It is a pity that showing myself in public is inconvenient now. We are the only survivors after Imperial Court Blessed Land was destroyed. Right now, we are already considered the top suspects by Northern Plains Gu immortals. If we are exposed, the consequences would be unthinkable. Also, the most crucial witness, Ma Hongyun, has vanished. It seems a certain Gu immortal is holding him captive. It is possible that we might have already been targeted by some Gu immortals. That is why I think that Eastern Sea would be a good place for you to go." At this point, Fang Yuan finally stated his true intentions. Chapter 673, Thousand Wish Tree. Eastern Sea. Tai Bai Yunxing was surprised. "Right. There are many sea areas in Eastern Sea. The culture and style there are greatly different from Northern Plains. You will certainly have great benefits when you go there. Especially in one of the sea areas, Air Bubble Sea. This sea produces abundant air bubble fish, but due to a fight between Gu immortals recently, it has been poisoned. The owners of this sea area, Ni Clan, Chiu Clan and Ba Clan are having headaches because of this." Fang Yuan explained. All new. Hapters. NNOV. Ulbin.com. Tai Bai Yunxing immediately became excited. "This feels like a major business opportunity. Junior brother, you are right, we can't move in Northern Plains but we can go to Eastern Sea. There are regional walls between the 5 regions, and the higher one's cultivation, the more difficult it is to cross these barriers. But we have fixed immortal travel and can thus ignore the regional walls. However, Old Bai, you need to be careful. Gu immortals might not be able to casually travel between regions, but the disturbance in Northern Plains is too large and is already known by the other 4 regions, too. Central Continent's 10 great sects have deep foundations and even their own pawns in all the other regions. I had planned to seize Immortal Gu Dark Limit before going to Eastern Sea, but there has not been much progress at He Lu Land's side. Danger will lurk everywhere in this trip, you need to be extremely careful." Fang Yuan sincerely reminded. Tai Bai Yun Sheng was deeply moved. I understand, but junior brother, you don't need to worry. I have been wandering around in northern plains for most of my life. I might not be too skilled in a head-on confrontation, but I still have more than enough ability to protect myself. Fang Yuan nodded. He also acknowledged this point, otherwise he would not have arranged for Tai Bai Yun Sheng to go to Eastern Sea. Tai Bai Yun Sheng was experienced and knowledgeable along with being a flying master, thus his escaping ability was top-notch. Moreover, he now possessed a formidable cloud path defensive killer move, 9 Cloud Ring. When you enter Eastern Sea, don't immediately make dealings with Ni, Chiu, and Bai clans, instead proceed to High Shirt Blessed Land. Among the 5 great trading markets in the world, Treasure Yellow Heaven is first and High Shirt Blessed Land is second. High Shirt Blessed Land should have missions for saving Air Bubble Sea. You can then use this pretext to get in contact with the 3 clans and save a lot of trouble. Fang Yuan reminded. Tai Bai Yun Sheng agreed, I will definitely go make a trip to High Shirt Blessed Land. Fang Yuan continued, I need some specific food to feed my immortal Gu, tens of thousands of underworld jellyfish and thousands of deep-sea lightning eels. These 2 are specialties of Eastern Sea. Also, see if there are any laughter stones in High Shirt Blessed Land, the blood of the desolate beast, 6-headed snake, and cloud dragon scales. This is the list of items I require, here. Tai Bai Yun Sheng accepted the list and revealed a serious expression, Junior brother, your matters are my matters as well. I will be sure to settle this with all my effort. Fang Yuan gave a bright smile, Old Bai, just do your best. Before departing, I hope you can make a trip to Dang Hun Mountain and consume some guts gu. This gu is among the highest quality gu around for strengthening one's soul. It is always best to be prepared just in case. Junior brother, here we go again. I have said it many times, these guts gu are your property, how can I covet your wealth as a senior brother? Tai Bai Yun Sheng immediately refused. This was already his 6th time refusing such an offer. Fang Yuan was already his benefactor. He, Tai Bai Yun Sheng, placed this favor deep in his heart, never to be forgotten, so how could he covet Fang Yuan's guts gu? Fang Yuan mumbled before conceding, strengthening the soul is extremely beneficial for you. How about this, I will sell these guts gu to you for 1 immortal essence stone. It just so happens that I lack immortal essence stones to buy food for my immortal gu. Tai Bai Yun Sheng wanted to say something but Fang Yuan waved his hand and continued, Senior brother, danger will be lurking on all sides during this trip to Eastern Sea, I hope you will arm and prepare yourself properly, otherwise, if some accident occurs to you, I will feel guilty. I try to pay attention to all details when I do something, I hope you can understand. His words contained sincerity and genuine friendship. Especially when Fang Yuan called him senior brother, which he rarely said, Tai Bai Yun Sheng's eyes reddened, he rapidly blinked his eyes and breathed out, all right, I understand your intent, junior brother, we will make this transaction. A day later, Tai Bai Yun Sheng had made all the preparations and left to immortal blessed land together with Fang Yuan, arriving at Eastern Sea. I will hand over both moving perspective cup gu and Stargate gu to you. We will maintain contact frequently, if there is any significant matter, please inform me beforehand. Fang Yuan reminded. Junior brother, go back without any worries. If Immortal Crane sect attacks, don't forget to call me. Fang Yuan nodded and without saying any more, he activated fixed immortal travel, disappearing from the spot. Tai Bai Yun Sheng stored the Stargate gu and looked at the surrounding sea. After identifying the direction, he rapidly began flying. When he appeared again, Fang Yuan had arrived at Western Desert. He was standing on an exceedingly tall sand dune, all around him was a boundless desert with countless sand dunes extending everywhere. The scorching sun shone down, there was no wind and the temperature was so high it made one have the feeling of being broiled. But Fang Yuan had an immortal zombie body and did not feel even a trace of warmth. The coarse and fine sand granules shone like gold under the sunlight. Fang Yuan looked at the sand dune under him. This sand dune was several times taller than other sand dunes. It shone with golden light and its contours were soft and smooth. The whole sand dune was a scene of nothingness except for a short tree on the peak. This tree was not even 8 feet tall, the branches were short, thin and twisted like monstrous claws, making it look extremely ugly. But the strange thing was, it had an enormous shadow of light. This shadow of light was extremely large, reaching 500 or 600 feet. The shadow of light was like a flourishing tree with many branches and leaves. The tree branches were white as snow, the flowers were pink like cherries. There were clusters of small fruits among the floral leaves that had yet to ripen, with all sorts of colors. This tree's origin was huge. It was an ancient desolate tree, named Thousand Wish. It would finish growing in 300 years, flower at its 600th year and bear fruit at the 900th year. The number of fruits it produced was always precisely 1,000. Right when the fruits completely ripened, people could bring gu recipes and make a wish under the tree. If the wish succeeded, the fruits would open and the corresponding gu worms would fly out. These gu worms could be mortal gu and also could be immortal gu. But if a wish for immortal gu succeeded, the amount of fruits would decrease accordingly. In Fang Yuan's previous life, this desolate tree had caused a huge battle among Western Desert's gu immortals. Finally, several super forces came to an agreement and tried to partition this tree between themselves. But on the day the fruits ripened and fell down, all sizes of forces, big and small, allied and burst through the blockade created by the super forces, causing chaos throughout the place. A lone cultivator rank 5 gu master, with the surname Han and namely, unexpectedly became the first to arrive under the Thousand Wish tree. His wish gave him a space path immortal gu named Phantom Heaven. Fang Yuan was a rank 4 gu master back then who sought to obtain profits in the chaos. After experiencing great dangers and difficulties, he arrived before the ancient desolate tree, and was also able to obtain a gu worm. But this gu worm was only a rare rank 4 gu. Even so, this rare rank 4 gu gave a tremendous boost to Fang Yuan's battle strength. Back then, I had to fight through such a tight siege defense to arrive in front of this tree, and the fruits were already sparse by then, only 50 or 60 were left. I have now arrived here in this life, but it's too early. The fruits still require over 200 years to completely mature. Fang Yuan's heart was deeply moved and he smacked this ancient desolate tree, but the Thousand Wish tree did not even budge. This desolate tree had astonishing defense and could continue to stand tall against the attacks of immortal gu. Fang Yuan had a deep impression of it. The regretful thing was that not long after that chaotic battle, Shi Clan's rank 8 ancestor, Shi Jianping, exited his seclusion and suppressed all the experts forcefully, his might awing the entirety of the Great Desert. The Thousand Wish tree was taken away by Shi Clan and planted at Shi Clan's blessed land. Since then, Fang Yuan had not been able to see the Thousand Wish tree again. Fang Yuan did not have methods to transplant the Thousand Wish tree. Even if he had, he did not have any place to plant it in. Hu immortal blessed land had a terrain of grassland and not desert terrain. The Thousand Wish tree required this kind of extreme environment to survive. Moreover, if the Thousand Wish tree was moved impulsively now, the floral leaves along with the Thousand Wish fruits would wither and fall, wasting the previous millennium of effort. Fang Yuan walked down the sand dune and left this place. Only after walking for a whole half a day and countless li, he had truly left the range of the Thousand Wish tree. Fang Yuan glanced back. There was only flat desert with no signs of sand dunes, let alone the gorgeous shadow of light of the 500 to 600 feet tall tree. He was not surprised. This Thousand Wish tree had an ability of shrouding a radius of a huge distance in illusion. When leaving this illusion, one must leave on foot. And approaching it was extremely troublesome. The illusion would emerge repeatedly and could even make people move around the same spot without realizing. It was because of this that I and others could fish for benefits. Fang Yuan smiled. He had fixed immortal travel so he could ignore this illusion. However, the goal of this trip was not this ancient desolate tree. It was instead the person who had gained enormous benefits from 1,000-wish fruit and became a Gu immortal expert later. This person's name was Han Li. Han Li was immortal. But after repeated fortuitous encounters, his nature became steadfast and courageous. His starting point was much lower than mine. When he had just started his cultivation, I was already a rank 3 Gu master in southern border. But at the time of my self-detonation, he had already become a Gu immortal at the peak of rank 7, a famous powerhouse of western desert. Many influential figures of central continent's 10 great sects suffered losses from him. But right now, he is only just a child. According to the biography of Han Li, he should be living in a mortal hamlet near Huang Clan. Fang Yuan's target was Han Li. Ever since Fang Yuan understood the effect of Connect Luck Immortal Gu, he had intended to use his rebirth advantage to get rid of the weakness of Spring-Autumn Cicada wearing down his luck. He planned meticulously and ruled out many people, leaving behind only a few targets. Han Li was one of them. These targets were people who would attain great success in the future, having large potential, as well as huge luck. People like Hunting King Sun Gone of Southern Border, who would only be at rank 5 all their lives, were simply ignored by Fang Yuan. Little immortal Xing Luo was a Gu immortal, but her luck was not good and she would at most reach a small scale of fame. Fang Yuan ignored her too. There was Shi Chaoyu, who would be able to become a rank 7 Gu immortal, but his journey was filled with ups and downs. His luck was definitely not good and he was also excluded. Only people like Han Li and Ma Hongyun, who had smooth journeys with repeated fortuitous encounters, were Fang Yuan's targets. However, Ma Hongyun's whereabouts were unknown at present and Fairy Li Shan was exerting her full efforts to investigate it. Fang Yuan's first target thus became Han Li. After leaving the 1,000-wish tree, Fang Yuan used Mortal Gu to disguise as a man with a yellowish face and a robust body. Then he directly flew towards Huang Clan. Chapter 674, Monolith Luck. The entirety of Western Desert was a vast desert. Oases were like stars in the sky, shining among this sea of sand. Humans lived here by relying on the oases. Western Desert, Shajing Oasis. Huang Clan as an upper-tier force had hundreds of years of history here. They occupied the most important resources at the center of this oasis. At the outer parts of the oasis, there were small-sized forces that submitted to this Huang Clan. At the even further outer areas, near the fringe of Shajing Oasis, there were mortal villages. These mortals had a tough life, they had huge numbers and were all under the control of Huang Clan and other forces of Gu masters. In these villages, there was a Han village. Near Han village, there was a small natural grassland. Although it was called a grassland, it was much more desolate than northern plains. There was sand everywhere and blades of red dagger grass were sharp as swords, stabbing into the deep parts of the sand, trying to absorb the meager water content. A group of children were bending their backs, holding sickles as they laboriously cut down these grasses. These children were not even 10 years old, but they had to come out and work, to make money for the family. This was common in mortal families. The dagger grass had sharp edges. These children were all wearing leather gloves, but there was one without gloves. This bare-handed child sniffed his mucus as he held the sickle, cutting the dagger grass and placed them into the basket on his back. The radiance of the setting sun was still very hot. These children were all breathing roughly as it shined on them, sweat pouring on their backs. Finally, the sky turned darker. As the sun was at the horizon, only half of it could be seen now, as the children stopped their work. Quickly leave, it is night time. The small ghost jackals are coming out to hunt for food. The child with the largest body frame spoke, like he was their leader. How much did you gather? Wow, that's a lot. As usual, they started comparing with each other. I ate until I was full today, that's why I have strength. hee hee. But the grass that you cut is still less than Hanli. Hey, Hanli, you are amazing, you can cut the grass without wearing gloves, yet there are no injuries on your hands, how did you do it? A small lass with a ponytail asked. Hanli giggled. The children returned to the village together, they were talking excitedly along the way. When they returned to the village, they split up, returning to their homes. Hanli returned home too. He pushed the broken wooden door and realized that his parents were not back yet. His father was a farmer, he was planting wire cotton at the west part of the village. He had been plowing the fields these days, going out early and returning home late. His mother had a job that everyone in the village admired. Every day she would enter the outer area of the oasis, doing odd jobs and cleaning for a small-sized Gu master clan. Hanli stood beside one quernstone. He poured the dagger grass in his basket inside, then he picked up a wooden pole and ground the grass down. He put in a lot of effort. Before long, he was full of sweat. After the grass was turned into paste, he took out a bag and poured a portion of the rice husks inside into the quernstone as well. He mixed them together, creating a paste-like food ingredient. He poured the food into a wooden basin. Next, he brought the wooden basin to the side of the house. There was a flimsy-looking stable beside the house. Inside were 3 fat sand scorpions. F0 low new. Hapters at nov/el/bin/.com. These sand scorpions were fat like pigs, they were no threat at all. Upon hearing Hanli's footsteps, the 3 fat sand scorpions rushed out from the shadows of the stable. Go ahead and eat, these were all cut down by me painstakingly. Hanli flipped over the wooden basin, pouring the paste-like food on the ground. The 3 fat sand scorpions surrounded the food and ate. They chewed loudly and made a humming noise. Eat, eat, eat more and grow faster. Hanli's small body was sprawled on the stable. He looked at these sand scorpions as he muttered. These fat sand scorpions were not Gu, they were ordinary creatures. But the meat of the scorpion was plump and delicious. The money obtained after selling the meat would be a huge sum for the entire mortal family. To Hanli's family, these 3 fat sand scorpions were their most important assets. Thus, even if Hanli did not get to eat dinner himself, he had to feed these 3 fat sand scorpions. Gulp, gulp, gulp. At this time, Hanli's stomach started growling. Hanli jumped down from the fence, he rubbed his tummy and returned home, starting to cook dinner. He had to cook dinner for his family every day. The rice they ate was the most common sand rice in Western Desert. The texture of this rice was very bad, it was hard to swallow. But it was easy to cultivate, it was the main crop that mortals ate. As Hanli worked next to the stove, he did not know that someone had been watching him for half the day. As night descended, at the graveyard that was several li away from Han village, Fang Yuan was sitting still like a statue. The reason he chose this place was because of how deserted it was. At night, Fang Yuan came here and activated up to 1,000 investigative Gu. He put the whole of Han village under his supervision. The primeval essence of Gu immortals was unlimited. As long as they had enough Gu worms, they could do things at the efficiency of thousands of mortals or more. In the darkness, Fang Yuan slowly opened his eyes. He assessed, the age fits, it should be this kid. As he thought about it, he activated the rank 5 luck inspection Gu. Looking from afar, he saw that above Han village there was a lump of a luck cloud. This luck cloud size was not big, it was gray-white and looked very thin. This was a collection of luck. These villagers had a sense of belonging, thus they felt that they were a collective body, resulting in their luck gathering together. Fang Yuan looked below the luck cloud. Smoky traces of luck were rising from the villagers. After rising for 200 meters, they merged into the luck cloud. And among the traces of luck in the luck cloud, there was one especially eye-catching portion of luck. This luck was like a huge stone, it was floating in the air above Han Li's family. 100 steps away from the ground. There was a crack on the surface of the stone, and a trace of luck was leaking from that crack. It had a golden color and was rising up, fusing into the collective luck cloud. What luck is this? Fang Yuan looked in amazement. He did not obtain the luck path true inheritance, he was quite unfamiliar with the meaning of the different forms of luck. For the time being, he decided to name this form of luck, calling it monolith luck. Only Hanli was at his home right now. Seeing this, Fang Yuan could confirm that Hanli was the future rank 7 Gu immortal, the guy with countless fortuitous encounters. Fang Yuan then tried to look above him, but saw nothing. What a pity, after becoming an immortal zombie, I cannot detect my own luck anymore, unless I get the rank 6 luck inspection Gu. But who knows how my luck is now? Is it still the black coffin luck? Fang Yuan muttered to himself, he had always been very curious towards luck. But just as he was about to take out Connect Luck Gu, he heard someone shouting, "Little thief Ling Hu, you are hiding here, do you think I, plump lady, can't find you? I chased you for countless miles, quickly return my immortal essence stones." Fang Yuan was secretly shocked, he turned around and looked, only to see a human figure made of moving sand, shouting at him from far away. Fang Yuan's heart sank, he shouted, "Plump lady. You got the wrong person, I am not the person you are chasing." "Bullshit. Little thief Ling Hu, everyone knows you are an expert in disguise, do you think that I would not recognize you when you disguise your appearance like this? You have some guts, stealing from me, I will beat you till your intestines are blown out." Not only was the human-shaped moving sand figure shouting, at the same time, there was a furious growl in the air as well. The voice was like thunder, it pierced heaven and earth. The entire oasis was shocked by this and went into chaos. Fang Yuan frowned deeply, he did not think that by disguising as a normal human and hiding his zombie appearance, he would unexpectedly be treated as a thief by someone else. He stood up and turned around to look. Only to see that at the northeast area, yellow sand was flying in the air and intense winds were blowing, the sound of the wind was like the roaring of beasts, continuous and loud. The yellow sand on the formerly peaceful ground was whipped up like tidal waves in the sea. The sand waves attacked one after another. Fang Yuan took a deep look at the monolith luck, before moving his body and charging towards the attacker head-on. Soon after, he saw the culprit. This was an extremely fat female Gu immortal, she had a thick waist and broad shoulders, she was like a water tank. She stood on the yellow sand waves as she arrogantly and furiously looked at Fang Yuan. She stretched out a finger, scolding, "Little thief Ling Hu, you." Just as she spoke, Fang Yuan attacked. Heavenly Zombie Transformation. Fang Yuan purposely shouted, before removing his disguise, showing his immortal zombie appearance. At once, a 6-meter-tall monster with a green face and sharp fangs, blood-red eyes, 8 monstrous arms and bulging muscles appeared before the female Gu immortal, Plump Lady. He looked ruthless and terrifying, radiating killing intent. Plump Lady was shocked, she said, "You." Fang Yuan stepped on the ground, causing a loud sound, the ground was cracking under his pressure, as he flew towards Plump Lady like a cannonball. Plump Lady saw Fang Yuan's ruthless charge and her heart shook, she quickly raised her arms. Swish swish swish. 3 huge sand waves immediately rose into the air, reaching hundreds of meters in height. The huge waves came crashing, Fang Yuan snickered as he raised his speed, crashing towards them. Bam bam bam. In the blink of an eye, he scattered the 3 huge sand waves and appeared before Plump Lady. Plump Lady's heart was pounding, she finally realized she had found the wrong person. But she was someone with a fiery temper, Fang Yuan's fierce and ferocious actions aroused her anger. "I'll let you taste my killer move, martial sand armor." She shouted loudly, as 2 traces of yellow sand gushed out from her ears, the sand quickly gathered and enveloped her entire body. In a few breaths of time, she had turned into a sand giant that was about the size of Fang Yuan, but she had a thicker body. Fang Yuan charged forward, as the sand giant roared, slamming with both its arms, displaying unrivaled fearlessness. Boom boom. With two loud bangs, the 8-armed immortal zombie's fists met with the sand giant's. The sand giant's fist scattered into yellow sand, while Fang Yuan's fists were fractured. Plump Lady took a step back, as the scattered yellow sand merged to create the sand giant's fists again. Fang Yuan, however, took a huge step forward, while his fractured fists were recovering rapidly, his remaining 6 fists slammed at the sand giant. Crash crash crash. At once, the two engaged in fierce combat. Yellow sand was flying in the air as the sound of bones breaking could be heard continuously. Plump Lady was more shocked as she fought on. Who is this person? Why is he so insane like a demon? He is even more ruthless and fearless than me. Chapter 675, Dead. Fang Yuan laughed wickedly, his 8 arms turned into fists and slammed, they opened into palms, slashing and smacking, they also became claws or piercing fingers. He showed his immense attainment in close combat. Plump Lady relied on martial sand armor's thick defense normally to engage in her relentless assaults. She was used to bullying other Gu immortals. But in front of Fang Yuan, she was at the losing end. Fang Yuan's fist shadows were flying. He moved nimbly as Plump Lady desperately dealt with his attacks. She could only parry his attacks but not retaliate. Suddenly, Fang Yuan saw an opening and got close to her. His 8 arms were like pythons coiling around her, as his 2 monstrous claws destroyed the sand giant's 2 arms like a drill. The sand giant roared, knocking its fat tummy towards him. Fang Yuan snickered in his heart. He had been expecting this. His figure moved quickly as he flew to the sky above the sand giant. His left knee slammed towards it, and with a bang, the sand giant's head was scattered. Before the yellow sand regenerated, Fang Yuan's right leg chopped at it like a battle axe. Bam! The yellow sand scattered. As the defensive killer move was broken, Plump Lady vomited a mouthful of blood, collapsing to the ground like a falling meteor. Fang Yuan tore the yellow sand open, like an eagle scavenging for food. He flew down from the sky, bringing the intense winds with him. He was bent on killing Plump Lady. Plump Lady, who was falling, saw Fang Yuan chasing her and showed an expression of fear. She attempted to pull some distance from him, but Fang Yuan's speed was faster. Bam! With a loud explosion, Fang Yuan charged down from a high altitude, directly slamming Plump Lady into a deep part of the desert. Large amounts of yellow sand was sent flying. The huge impact created a large circular crater. It was 1,000 steps wide and about 30 meters deep. Oh! Fang Yuan stood at the pit of the crater. He had a surprised look as Plump Lady's corpse suddenly disintegrated into a pile of sand. At the same time, he heard her shrill laughter from the air. Oaf, I will let you taste my attacking killer move, Burial Dragon Sand Coffin. As she said this, the yellow sand around the crater gushed down like tidal waves, filling up the entire round crater. Fang Yuan could not dodge in time. He was buried within. The surface of the desert was as flat as a mirror. Plump Lady's mouth was oozing with blood as she sat on a lump of yellow sand. Her palms were placed together as her eyes were staring wide open, activating her killer move maniacally. On the surface of the mirror-like desert, the sand statue of a certain horned dragon appeared. This horned dragon statue coiled around. The dragon's head bit its tail, gathering the surrounding sand and forming a great force to suppress Fang Yuan, who was under the sand. The intense battlefield had turned peaceful once more. Huff! Plump Lady let out a breath of turbid air. She wiped her sweat as she finally relaxed. It is over. My burial dragon sand coffin can form an incomparable pressure, emitted on my enemy in all directions. Once my enemy is trapped, they cannot move until they are turned into meat paste. In the past, I forcefully suppressed a desolate beast, evil dragon, not to mention restraining a lone zombie. Plump Lady muttered to herself, her words had great effect as she quickly calmed herself down. But right at this moment, there was a loud explosion from beneath the ground. Bang! What sound is that? Plump Lady's body shook, she became nervous again. Bang! The loud bang could be heard again, it was like there was a giant underground beating a drum. Damn it, it is my burial dragon sand coffin. Plump Lady became alert, she stood up abruptly, but her vision turned dark, her body was swaying as she almost fell onto the yellow sand on the ground. She was indeed injured. When Fong Yuan tore the martial sand armor, his strong punch had heavily injured her. At the crucial moment, she used her killer move as a body double, attracting Fong Yuan's attention as she hid inside the yellow sand that was flying all over the place. After that, she used her killer move Burial Dragon Sand Coffin and trapped Fong Yuan underneath the sand. Impossible. Even a desolate beast, evil dragon met its end under my killer move's power. This killer move is worth at least 3 immortal essence stones in treasure yellow heaven. Plump Lady spoke to herself. Bang! Right at this moment, there was another explosion. The originally fearsome and powerful evil dragon statue shook, it was covered in cracks as sand fell off the statue. Plump Lady's heart shuddered along with it, she stared with her eyes wide open, her gaze was fixed on the desert below her feet. Boom! 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 The loud sound descended again, it became more and more frequent, the ground was shaking along with it. Plump Lady's mouth was dry, her heart was pounding from shock as she felt that her killer move was not trapping a person, she was trapping a fearsome monster that was even fiercer than the desolate beast evil dragon. Bam! The huge dragon statue could suppress him no longer, it completely disintegrated. The latest stories. NNOV. Ulbin.com. The surface of the desert swelled up like a tumor, sand burst out and rained down, as a huge figure appeared before Plump Lady once again. It was a moonless night, winds were blowing intensely, giving off an eerie and scary feeling. An 8-armed monster that was 6 meters in height, Fong Yuan who had a green face and sharp fangs was like a demon god incarnate, he brought fear and nightmares to this world. Different from before, he was covered in a black armor, the armor was spiky and looked very fearsome. It was extremely thick and could make Fong Yuan's tall and mighty heavenly zombie body become even more imposing, his demonic aura was oozing everywhere. This was Fong Yuan's defensive killer move. If Plump Lady lived for another 400 years, she would recognize this. During the chaotic 5 Regions War, this was the most common defensive killer move, hair armor. It had the rank 5 indestructible steel main Gu as its core, with several hundred Gu worms as assistants, it allowed a Gu immortal to grow an absurd amount of hair all over their body, to form body armor. Not only was this cheap and efficient, it had great defense and the Gu worms used were easy to replenish if they were damaged. After Fong Yuan became an immortal zombie, his hair had become tough as steel, when he used hair armor, the effect was greater than most ordinary bodies of Gu immortals. Using hair armor and his immortal zombie body, he took on Burial Dragon Sand Coffin directly without taking any injury. This killer move had appeared 400 years in advance, Plump Lady could not recognize it, but it did not hinder her from evaluating this killer move's value. This defensive killer move is stronger than my martial sand armor. If it is sold in treasure yellow heaven, it would be sold at 2.5 immortal essence stones. Thinking of this, Plump Lady's battle intent fell again. Sir, I am Mo Clan's Gu immortal, I am chasing a thief, I mistook you for him. I believe that you are not Ling Hu Su now, this is a misunderstanding. It is said that friends are often made after a fight, we should. Fang Yuan laughed coldly, he, interesting. Mo Clan's Gu immortal, if I kill you, it will surely be very enjoyable. This was the first time Fang Yuan had spoken in this battle. His voice was hoarse and terrible to listen to. Plump Lady shuddered when she listened to him. Mo Clan was a super force in Western Desert, an overlord that dominated a territory. But Fang Yuan was fearless, he had no consideration for Mo Clan at all. Plump Lady's heart sank to rock bottom. Where did this demonic cultivator come from? Such incredible battle strength, high quality among rank 6 Gu immortals, yet he is so arrogant and ruthless. Next, Plump Lady saw a pair of wings growing on Fang Yuan's back. His wings were black, that of a bat's, black and huge, they flapped. The bat wings vanished like an illusion, but it caused Fang Yuan's body to shoot forward at lightning speed. So fast. This is a killer move, especially for movement. Plump Lady's pupils shrunk, she had made up her mind to run. She screamed shrilly, her plump face could not conceal the immense fear and shock she felt. Seeing that Fang Yuan was getting close, Plump Lady's body burst out with a dazzling yellow light. The yellow light caused her body to move back rapidly, she escaped in the opposite direction at lightning speed. Fang Yuan activated the movement killer move, Light Illusion Bat Wings again, but could not catch up to her. A few breaths later, Plump Lady vanished into the horizons. Plump Lady suffered a huge loss, she even used her killer move Light Sand Escape, her foundation will definitely be affected. This guy is so absurd, he actually fought till Plump Lady escaped. Far away, Ling Hu Su hid deeply within a sand dune as he suppressed his aura, not daring to show any flaws in his concealment. She escaped quickly. Fang Yuan snorted, he stopped at the battlefield and used investigative Gu to search. Ling Hu Su did not dare to breathe loudly, he felt that the investigative Gu's aura had been sweeping the area where he was hiding in. Fang Yuan searched for a long time, but seeing that there was no effect, he left. He's finally gone, weird. Why is my heart in so much unrest? Ling Hu Su had just wanted to come out, when suddenly his heart shook and he changed his mind. Time had slowly passed and it was already late at night. A figure moved like a phantom, descending from a high altitude, it was Fang Yuan. He had purposely left, turning around and flying into the clouds, secretly inspecting the ground. He had waited for a long time but did not see anyone. He snorted coldly, giving up on his search and returning to Xianxia Oasis. So close, so close. This demon is really scheming and cunning, thankfully I was careful, otherwise, I would have fallen for his trap. Ling Hu Su curled up in the sand nearby, breaking out in cold sweat from fear. In the darkness, his eyes were moving randomly. What is the origin of this demon? Where did he come from? What unspeakable secrets does he have? Ling Hu Su was extremely curious, but this demon's investigation methods cannot discover me, should I trail him and see what he is up to? But when he thought about Fang Yuan pretending to leave and returning, his thoughts were extinguished like a candle. This demon is not only ruthless and cruel, he is also very crafty and cunning, I should forget about it. Anyway, the immortal essence stones are already mine. Ling Hu Su discarded this thought, he did not dare to come out of the desert surface, he drilled underground. He did not have much battle strength, but he had many movement killer moves, his speed underground was unexpectedly not slower than an ordinary Gu immortal's flight. He chose the opposite direction as Fang Yuan and left. Fang Yuan returned to Xianxia Oasis once again. Lights lit up the oasis, as loud noises resounded everywhere. Even though Fang Yuan had purposely gone far away, the battle of the Gu immortals still caused quite the commotion, the mortals were all panic-stricken. Fang Yuan ignored them, he used luck inspection Gu and found Hanli again. He was extremely alert, he concealed his traces as he used Connect Luck Gu secretly. This time, it was smooth sailing and there were no more accidents. The two had their luck connected. Fang Yuan could see that Han Li's monolith luck was shrinking at a shocking pace. Soon after, the monolith luck was filled with cracks, it crumbled. A few breaths later, Han Li's luck fell to an ordinary mortal's smoke trace level. Next, his faint gray-white smoke turned black. Oh no! Fang Yuan saw this and his heart sank. At the same time, Han Li was eating with his parents who had returned. He was extremely hungry, he gobbled up the food. Eat slowly, son. His mother laughed dotingly, she was very concerned about her son. Guh. Suddenly, Han Li grabbed his throat, his eyes were wide open, he choked. Son, quickly spit it out. His parents were shocked, they moved frantically. But they did not manage to save Han Li. He was dead. Chapter 676, Human Medicine Gu. Han Li woke up in his bed, he slowly regained consciousness and opened his eyes. Beside his bed, his parents were kneeling on the ground, kowtowing to an elderly Gu master non-stop, they were expressing their gratitude. Dr. Mo, thank you for saving our son. Dr. Mo, we will remember your kindness for the rest of our lives. Father, mother. Han Li spoke with much difficulty, he muttered softly. My son, my precious son. You are finally awake. Han Li's mother heard his voice and jumped onto the bed, crying from joy. Little rascal, you are finally awake. Quickly thank Dr. Mo, if he was not here by chance, you would have died. Han Li's father was overjoyed, he quickly reminded him. Dr. Mo, thank you for saving my life. Han Li saw Dr. Mo and fear flashed across his eyes. I am the Gu master that is stationed in Han village, it was natural for me to save you. You were lucky today, you met me when I was patrolling the village. Dr. Mo laughed. Next, he left quietly while Han Li's parents were thanking him with all their hearts. Oh. This is interesting. Fang Yuan did not leave, he was lurking nearby, watching this scene. After he succeeding in connecting their luck, Han Li's luck fell drastically, it rapidly turned into a thin layer of deathly black luck. If Han Li was a Gu master with ample strength, he could ignore this luck. But he was a mortal, and a weak child among mortals, he was immediately killed by the backlash of this deathly black luck, choking on his food. Fang Yuan wanted to save him immediately. He had large numbers of mortal healing Gu, a matter like choking could be easily resolved, he could be saved as long as a long time had not passed. As long as a person is not dead, their luck would not stop. If Han Li died like this, Fang Yuan's disastrous luck would only be alleviated for the moment, but it would continue getting worse, the root of the problem would not be solved. If Han Li was alive, then by connecting his luck to Fang Yuan's all the time, Fang Yuan's horrible luck would slowly improve. But the moment he was about to make a move, a figure jumped out of a large house in the village, rushing towards Han Li's house. Seeing the movement Gu he was using, this was evidently a rank 2 Gu master. Fang Yuan squinted his eyes, he silently got closer to the village, deciding to watch the event unfold. When this rank 2 Gu master arrived at Han Li's house, he straightened his clothes and pretended to be carefree, next he accidentally discovered Han Li choking. Because of the pleas of Han Li's parents, he saved Han Li and revived him. From their conversation, this Dr. Mo should be a healing Gu master that is stationed in the village. But it seems that Han Li and this Dr. Mo have some secret connection. Fang Yuan thought. In order to control mortals, Gu master forces would send 1 or 2 Gu masters to look after the respective villages in turns. Like Guyu Xianxia on Qing Mao Mountain, he was this kind of stationed Gu master. When Han Li and his family fell asleep, Fang Yuan sneaked into the house. He went to Han Li and used a mortal Gu, causing him to fall into deeper sleep. Fang Yuan stretched out his 8 huge arms. He searched all over Han Li's body and soon, he found something amiss. There were quite a few goo worms on Han Li's body. His entire body's flesh and blood seemed to be influenced by goo worms. These arrangements felt very familiar to Fang Yuan. A weakness of a zombie was that their cognition would slow. Fang Yuan could not find the key point and had to use the wills he stored in his mind to assist in thinking. He looked through his memories and soon found the truth. It turns out this so-called Dr. Mo is refining human medicine goo. This human medicine goo is a rank 3 goo. It uses a human child as the main refinement material, taking years to slowly nurture and grow. Once the human medicine goo was refined, it could only be used once to increase a person's lifespan, but it had huge drawbacks. That Dr. Mo is no longer young. It seems he wants to use human medicine goo to increase his lifespan, thus he placed his sights on Han Li. No wonder Han Li could grab the leaves of the dagger grass without any gloves, that was because his body had already been modified secretly. This is also why Dr. Mo came over quickly when Han Li choked, that was because he had placed a goo worm in Han Li's body that could monitor him. And finally, even though Han Li choked to death, he could still be revived easily. That was because the human medicine goo's refinement process caused his vitality to increase greatly. Fang Yuan realized at once. Even though he found out Dr. Mo's scheme, he did not do anything to stop him. If Dr. Mo mysteriously dies, Han Village would definitely be investigated. If he does not die, in order to refine human medicine goo, he would need to take good care of Han Li. There are still 3 to 4 years until human medicine goo finishes refining, while I just need Han Li to be alive. Fang Yuan activated luck inspection goo again, checking Han Li's luck. Ever since the luck connection had succeeded, Han Li's luck had fallen drastically. His special luck was gone, becoming like that of a normal mortal, a thin layer of luck resembling faint smoke. Fang Yuan observed for a while, noticing that the black color in Han Li's luck had vanished, turning into a gray-white color. Fang Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. He summed up his experiences this time to reach a conclusion. Black color represents death. Without the black color in his luck, Han Li was in no danger of dying for the moment. As the saying goes, every cloud has a silver lining. There could be great fortune after surviving a near-death experience. After Han Li's crisis just now, his luck had been improving. Thinking about it, I narrowly survived a disaster in Northern Plains by relying on my own strength and schemes. Ever since I escaped from the wind veil of assimilation, half of my black coffin luck has most likely dissipated. But even so, Han Li was nearly killed by my luck. It seems I have to find a few more targets and connect our luck together. Fang Yuan's gaze shined for a bit. In the end, he secretly placed some goo worms on Han Li's body before leaving. Using his superior methods, there was no way the rank 2 Dr. Mo could find them. One day, if Dr. Mo tries to harm Han Li, he will definitely suffer severe consequences. Lad, I gave you 3 lifelines. From now on, you will have to rely on yourself. Hee hee. Fang Yuan arrived silently, and left unnoticed, not leaving behind a single trace. He first went far away from Shajing Oasis, before activating fixed immortal travel at an empty location. At the next moment, he appeared in Central Continent. A huge heavenly river flowed down from the sky. It flowed through the entirety of Central Continent, towards the eastern side of Central Continent, into Eastern Sea. At the downstream parts of the heavenly river, because of the impact caused by the water, it formed a huge fertile plain. There were abundant resources in the plain. People and nature flourished in abundance. Countless small and middle-sized sects were established here. Among these sects, there was one small sect that was inconspicuous, but had quite the grand name. It was called Universal Life Academy. Fang Yuan hid in a forest, observing them from afar. The academy was in a mountain valley. There were only a few rooms here with only one square. It seems that they were currently holding a sect competition, as there were 2 stages in this square, with hundreds of Gu masters watching below the stages. Read latest. OV. LS at N. V/E/L/by. .com. This battle between mortal Gu masters was extremely short, there was nothing too outstanding. But in the eyes of the spectators, it was extremely exciting. Especially for the youngster, Hong Yi, who was standing among the crowd, this competition had great meaning. I have bull strength, tiger strength, and even obtained the Gu worm rewind, by chance, my battle strength is first-rate among rank 2 Gu masters. During this competition, I must shock everyone with my skill and obtain the number 1 spot in the academy. This way, I can force my father to relent and place my mother's memorial tablet in the ancestral hall. Hong Yi clenched his fists, deciding in his mind. At the same time, Fang Yuan, who was far away, muttered with bright shining eyes, "Found you, Hong Yi." This Hong Yi's luck was not worse than Han Li, he was also a rank 7 legend that appeared during the 5 regions chaotic war. He cultivated strength and soul path, he had exemplary talent and was extremely skilled in self-creating killer moves. He had many fortuitous encounters, he obtained the body of an ancient Rockman king, he deciphered an inheritance left behind by star constellation Immortal Venerable, and even through a lucky coincidence managed to subdue an ancient desolate beast, White-horned Qilin, as his steed. Even though he found his target, Fang Yuan did not strike immediately. Right now, this scene is in the middle of broad daylight, I will cause quite a commotion when I use Connect Luck, I might be discovered. This was not Han Village. In Han Village, there was only 1 rank 2 Gu master stationed, but here, it was an entire sect full of Gu masters. Not only this, there were 3 to 4 other small to mid-sized forces in the valley. In this entire plain at the downstream of the Heavenly River, there were countless sections. Among these mortals, there were even some lone cultivator Gu immortals. These Gu immortals were all creators of the sects, if Fang Yuan used Connect Luck Immortal Gu here, he might be discovered by them. I can only wait until night when everyone is asleep. I will arrange many mortal Gu and try to conceal the area, it is worth a try. Fang Yuan was very experienced and cunning, he would never be lacking in patience. When it was night time, Universal Life Academy became silent, as Fang Yuan opened his eyes. Very good, I have arranged over 10,000 Gu worms in the vicinity of the valley, my preparations are complete. To conceal the aura of the immortal Gu, I will need to use Connect Luck for half the night. Right at this moment, there was the sound of a spatial disturbance in his aperture. A moving perspective cup Gu appeared out of nowhere in his immortal aperture. There was a letter in the moving perspective cup Gu. Is Tai Bai Yunsheng in trouble? Fang Yuan's consciousness entered the Gu, he soon found out that the letter did not come from Tai Bai Yunsheng, but from Fairy Li Shan. After the Snowy Mountain Alliance, Fang Yuan passed Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan a moving perspective cup Gu each, while he kept the other half of their respective moving perspective cup Gu. The contents of the letter made Fang Yuan frown deeply. This was a letter asking for help by Fairy Li Shan on He Lu Lan's behalf. He Lu Lan was being chased down by her father, she was in great danger. How can this be? Damn it! Fang Yuan sighed deeply, because of their oath, he had to put aside his own matters and swiftly return to Northern Plains to assist He Lu Lan. In any case, for the time being, Hong Yi was going to stay here, it would be easy for Fang Yuan to find him. I'll let you off for now. Fang Yuan hurriedly retrieved most of his Gu worms, avoiding leaving behind traces as much as possible, before he sneaked into a cave and used fixed immortal travel. At the next moment, he arrived in a secret room at the 3rd peak of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. In the secret room, Fairy Li Shan was pacing back and forth worriedly. Upon seeing Fang Yuan, she got close to him. You are finally back. I am extremely anxious, the situation is terrible, little Lan is being pursued by that evil scoundrel. Why aren't you helping her? Fong Yuan frowned. I was going to act, but little Lon urged me to continue hiding our connection. She did not want our relationship to be disclosed. You came alone. Where is Tai Bai Yunsheng? He has other matters now. Fong Yuan asked again, how many Gu immortals are pursuing her? Only two, one is He Cheng while the other is Xue Song Zi. I placed an investigative Gu on He Lulan, her situation is very dangerous now. Quick, I will use my thoughts to transmit the scenery to you, quickly go save her. Fong Yuan inspected the thoughts and used fixed immortal travel. At the next moment, he appeared beside He Lulan. Chapter 677, First Battle with He Cheng. Lulan, stop running. You are my daughter, why would I harm you? Don't listen to other people's defamation. We as father and daughter have a huge misunderstanding. I admit, it is true that I have the Yin-Yang life extension method, but this method cannot harm lives. Your mother really passed away because of the earthly calamity. He Cheng floated in the air, using a tone like one who felt unjustly treated, trying to persuade He Lulan. He wore a black robe and had fair skin, his eyes were dark and his face was like jade. He had beautiful facial features and gave off a vibrant aura. He was truly a famously handsome man among Northern Plains Gu immortals. When he urged He Lulan, his tone was sincere, it was overflowing with emotions, coupled with his good looks, outsiders who did not know the details might have truly believed him. But He Lulan already had clearly seen this man's true colors. She gritted her teeth, evil scum, who would believe your hypocritical lies? If the Yin-Yang life extension method really cannot harm lives, why don't you let me see it? Hehe, I believe that Xue Song Zi at your side will also be very interested. Xue Song Zi was tall and thin, he wore blue clothes and his snowy white hair extended to his feet. He stood beside He Cheng without saying a word. He was a demonic path Gu immortal, he controlled the seventh peak of snowy mountain blessed land. Earlier, he had sponsored Ma tribe and Ma tribe lost in the imperial court contest, thus he was heavily suppressed by He tribe. Next, in order to obtain the strength path immortal Gu, He Lulan exposed the secret of He Cheng causing harm to Su Xian heir to him. Xue Song Zi thus had a secret weapon to restrain He Cheng. He Lulan had wanted to use Xue Song Zi to ruin He Cheng's reputation, but to think that the two of them had actually ganged up. Upon hearing this from He Lulan, Xue Song Zi's eyes moved about as he turned around towards He Cheng with much interest. Maybe I can help your daughter evaluate it. He Cheng snorted, ignoring Xue Song Zi's words. He changed his attitude, his eyes shining with cold light as he spoke to He Lulan calmly, daughter, you do not know what is good for you. He Lulan spat in response to his words, but what came out was blood. She was in her true form now, she was bathed in blood as her armor was broken, she was in a pathetic state. Her gaze however, turned more ruthless as her killing intent boiled. She showed a mocking expression on her face, father. Hehe, the grand righteous path rank 7 Gu immortal, Lord He Cheng, actually brought along a demonic path Gu immortal with him to coerce his daughter. If this scene was shown to the world, I wonder what would happen. He Cheng was indifferent toward such mocking words, he smiled lightly and showed his deep and unfathomable shrewdness. Lulan, you have nowhere to run. You have the great strength true martial physique, it is 10 times as hard for you to become a Gu immortal compared to normal people. Without my help, you cannot become a strength path Gu immortal. Humph, kill me if you have the guts. He Lulan showed her fierce nature, her expression turned ruthless as her aura surged. If you force my hand, I will self-detonate. I will let all your efforts go down the drain. When your plans fail, I wonder what you can do. He Cheng laughed, if you die, how will you avenge your mother? You've endured this and lurked for so many years, painstakingly developing, wasn't it all for revenge? Unfortunately, mortal and immortals are worlds apart, even if you have one of the 10 extreme physiques and are able to bully some bottom-tier rank 6 Gu immortals. For you to kill me, a rank 7 Gu immortal, delusional. Although he said that, He Qing still felt some agitation in his heart. He Lulan pointed out He Cheng's concerns. Although he had the immortal Gu dark arrow, this immortal Gu could only be used to attack. He Qing did not have capturing methods. If he forced her hand, and He Lulan self-detonates, he could not stop her. Most importantly, such acts of harming his daughter could not be known to the public, he could only work in secret. Otherwise, with He Cheng's reputation and influence in Northern Plains' righteous path, he could bring at least 5 to 6 Gu immortals with him. But now, he only brought Xianxia. And Xianxia was a demonic path Gu immortal of Snowy Mountain. He only would care about benefits and could not be trusted. Although he seemed to be an ally, He Cheng from the beginning was guarding against him. Earlier, He Lulan had exposed his secret. After Xianxia obtained this weakness, he did not expose it to the public. Destroying He Cheng's reputation could decrease He tribe Gu immortals' pressure on Xianxia. But if he used it to threaten He Cheng, he would be able to gain more benefits. Thus, before the wind veil of assimilation appeared, Xianxia found He Cheng in person and threatened him with this secret. He Cheng was stunned at that moment. His secret that had been hidden for so many years was known by an outsider. He almost lost his bearings. But he was an old and shrewd person. He quickly calmed down and used his glib tongue to accede to a portion of Xianxia's requests. Next, He Cheng even urged Xianxia to cooperate. As long as he assisted in the plan and it succeeded, he would gain more benefits. Xianxia gave an overbearing request. He was interested in the Yinyang life extension method. Although Xianxia was middle-aged and also had lifespan Gu, who among Gu immortals would not be interested in a life extension method? He Cheng was furious and helpless. He could only agree for now. Thus, He Cheng and Xianxia's seemingly united but internally divided alliance was formed. Just as He Lulan, He Cheng and Xianxia were at a stalemate, a bright jade-green light burst out beside He Lulan. The jade light dissipated, revealing Fang Yuan's huge body. He was 6 meters tall and had 8 arms. He had a green face and red eyes. His entire body was covered in a black shiny armor which had many spikes on it. Facing strong foes, Fang Yuan did not dare to be careless. He first used the defensive killer move, hair armor, before using fixed immortal travel to come here. Although fixed immortal travel could only transport humans, when Gu masters use Gu worms, they can form clothes and armor, and would not have to teleport naked every time. Back when Fang Yuan teleported from Three Kings Blessed Land to Hu Immortal Blessed Land, because he was short on time and did not have the relevant Gu worms, he had to teleport naked, and gave Feng Jin Huang an unforgettable experience. You are finally here. He Lulan saw that her reinforcement had arrived. Her expression brightened. Which Gu immortal is this? Who are you? Xianxia quickly asked in shock. Fang Yuan rapidly looked at the two in the air. His voice was hoarse as his surging killing intent was displayed. The person who will kill you. As he spoke nonsense with them, he transmitted to He Lulan, quick. We cannot stay here for long. Enter my immortal aperture and I'll bring you away. Hearing that Fang Yuan was trying to kill him, Xianxia flew into a rage. Such words. Next to him, the Gu immortal He Qing reacted more quickly. Attack. That immortal Gu is fixed immortal travel. He only needs 3 breaths of time to escape. We cannot give them any opportunities. As they spoke, He Lulan had already entered Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. Xianxia's expression turned severe. He waved his sleeves and created a curved moon blade wheel that was the size of a horse carriage. The blade wheel spun in the air, slashing at Fang Yuan. Killer move, Icy Wind Blade Wheel. The blade will made of ice was extremely sharp, it was oozing with frost energy and was extremely fast when pushed by the wind. Before the blade will had reached him, Fang Yuan could feel the icy winds blowing on him. This killer move is very fierce, it has the essence of both ice and wind path, its value is at least 3 immortal essence stones. Fang Yuan squinted, he logically chose to evade it. Killer move, light illusion bat wings. 2 large phantom black bat wings appeared behind him, after the phantom wings flapped, they vanished. Fang Yuan gained a huge boost in speed, he moved like lightning and flew sideways, dodging the icy wind blade wheel. The blade wheel hit the ground, making a loud sound as it dug deep into the ground like cutting tofu. On the grassland, the blade wheel carved out a huge trench, and ice that was tough as rocks formed on the sides of the trench. Although Fang Yuan dodged the icy wind blade wheel, He Cheng's attack was right in front of him. CK4 EWST Rise on no/v/l/bin. C0m. This was a very inconspicuous small black arrow. The body of the arrow was short, it was about half a person's arm length, it was black and did not give out any aura of danger. But precisely because of this, Fang Yuan was on extreme alert. This was the attack of the Immortal Gu Dark Arrow. He Cheng was experienced in battles, he was ruthless and used his trump card from the start. Fang Yuan quickly activated his killer move, Light Illusion Bat Wings, but the black arrow was like a magnet attracted to him, it changed directions agilely and was fixed on Fang Yuan, he could not shrug it off at all. Immortal Gu Dark Arrow's attack could home in on enemies and turn in different directions, its speed was fast. Even though Fang Yuan was a flying master, he could not shake it off. As the distance between him and the dark arrow shortened, he fell under greater threat. Fang Yuan's defensive killer move, Hair Armor, although it had a high price-to-performance ratio, and was widely spread during the 5 regions chaotic war, it was only a mortal killer move, Dark Arrow could pierce it in one hit. Even though Fang Yuan's immortal zombie body was strong, it could not resist the might of Dark Arrow. Especially when this Dark Arrow ignored Fang Yuan's body, heart and other areas, only aiming for his sole weakness, his brain. After becoming an immortal zombie, Fang Yuan's heart, throat, anus, and all other areas were no longer weak points in his body, even if they were destroyed, he would still function fine and would not take too much damage. But his brain was different. If his brain was destroyed, his mind would also perish. Fang Yuan would be unable to think, unable to act, and would be at his enemy's mercy. Activating fixed immortal travel required 3 breaths of time, but the dark arrow chased relentlessly, Fang Yuan did not have the time for it. Fang Yuan moved around rapidly, the many mortal goo that made up his killer move, Light Illusion Bat Wings, were starting to be worn down. It is over. He Cheng laughed coldly, waving his sleeves and shooting out another dark arrow. My dark arrow Immortal Gu is merely rank 6 and can only shoot out up to 3 dark arrows at the same time. No matter who you are, making me use 2 dark arrows to deal with you, it should be your honor. He Cheng looked at Fang Yuan struggling at the brink of death as he evaluated arrogantly. Humph, what are you so proud of? I was just toying with you. Fang Yuan spoke in a hoarse voice and laughed suddenly. 2 dark arrows attacked him at once, he knew he could no longer avoid using Green Grape Immortal Essence, activating the Immortal Gu Worldly Wave Trace. Swoosh! A huge wave appeared below Fang Yuan's feet. The waves moved quickly, Fang Yuan stepped on them as he quickly created some distance from the dark arrows. The power of an Immortal Gu was truly extraordinary. Earlier, Fang Yuan had used Light Illusion Bat Wings no less than 100 times, but he could not escape from the dark arrows. But right now, he had just used Worldly Wave Trace once and immediately moved far away from it. Chapter 678, number 4 in the list of mystical Gu. Another immortal Gu. Xianxia's expression changed, his gaze was heated, looking extremely jealous and envious. To think that in order to obtain wooden chicken immortal Gu, he spent so much effort in scheming, yet his plans still failed him. The immortal zombie in front of him actually had immortal Gu, which most ordinary Gu immortals did not have, and he even had 2. Hey Cheng, Xianxia, that will be all for today. Enjoy your life from now on, because you do not have much time left. Fang Yuan's tone was chilling. He stepped on the flying wave, at the same time, a jade green light flashed on his body. 3 breaths of time later, fixed immortal travel carried him across space, leaving this battlefield. 2 dark arrows arrived at his former location, only hitting the last trace of jade light remaining. Oh no, they ran away. Xianxia's expression was extremely ugly. He questioned He Cheng, aren't you a rank 7 Gu immortal? Why couldn't you stop them? Xianxia, mind your tone. He Cheng was expressionless, he gave Xianxia a cold glance. Xianxia was pressured by He Cheng's grand aura, his expression became less overbearing. He Cheng spoke calmly, the other party has 2 movement immortal Gu, unless we have an immortal Gu that can seal the environment, we can only watch them escape. However, the tracing method I used on He Lulan is extremely secretive, it is a killer move at the peak of the mortal level. As long as she shows up in Northern Plains again, I will detect her. Also, this was not a fruitless trip, we have already found out that He Lulan has a force backing her. Without help, there is no way she could have reached this stage. I just did not expect an immortal zombie with 2 movement immortal Gu to show up. It seems the force behind He Lulan is not simple at all. The situation is getting interesting. Saying this, He Cheng showed a faint smile, he felt no dejection after this loss. He did not strike against He Lulan, on one hand, he was wary of her self-detonation, on the other hand, he wanted to draw out her mysterious backer. What are you saying? Xianxia's gaze focused. Immortal zombies are often the result of Gu immortals who are forced by circumstances when they have no way of extending their lifespan. Do you think this immortal zombie is truly the person supporting He Lulan behind the scenes? He Cheng asked with deep meaning. Fang Yuan did not fight against them, he only displayed his flying master attainment when he dodged the dark arrows. But this attainment was nothing special for Gu immortals who had lived for hundreds of years. At this moment, He Cheng and Xianxia did not know Fang Yuan's true battle strength, and Fang Yuan did not receive much of their attention, they thought he was a normal immortal zombie. Xianxia's gaze flickered, I understand what you mean. This immortal zombie is not the crucial person, his 2 movement immortal Gu are most likely loaned to him by others. He Cheng nodded, that's right, this mysterious person is likely to be someone we know. They sent an unfamiliar immortal zombie over here to help, that means it was not convenient for them to appear. This mysterious person is leaving no clues for us, how will we investigate? Xianxia felt a headache, an enemy hiding in the dark was the most troublesome kind, not only did he feel restrained, he did not know who to trust and who to target. They have already shown a flaw. He Cheng laughed loudly, be it fixed immortal travel or worldly wave trace, they are both related to Central Continent. Such an obvious clue is enough for us to discover many things. As long as I can uncover the true identity of that person, I will be able to take them down all at once. Saying this, He Cheng showed a ruthless expression on his face. Fixed immortal travel brought Fang Yuan back to Fairy Li Shan's residence. Little Lan, how are your injuries? Seeing that He Lulan was leaving Fang Yuan's immortal aperture while covered in blood, Fairy Li Shan was very nervous, she quickly went over and checked. Little aunt, it is not a problem. That scoundrel did not attack me seriously, he was only putting on a show. He Lulan laughed, as if she was not the one injured. Fairy Li Shan's heart was eased, she let out a breath of turbid air. It seems that your guess is right, little Lan, that scoundrel really planted some tracking method on your body. This method is extremely well hidden, we could not find it even after searching intensely several times. Fang Yuan heard this and his gaze turned cold. He looked at He Lulan closely. That is to say, you were discovered by He Qing on purpose. I would not say it was on purpose. He Lulan looked into Fang Yuan's eyes without any fear. Earlier, little Ant found some crucial information. It was regarding the whereabouts of Ma Hongyun. Ma Hongyun was taken away by a northern plains Gu immortal, Qin Baisheng. His blessed land is situated in Crimson Reed Marsh. I went there intending to sneak into the blessed land and see if the information was true. I didn't expect that He Qing was also nearby. The moment I stepped into Crimson Reed Marsh, he detected me. Fang Yuan nodded, he believed what He Lulan said. Of course, this was not because he trusted He Lulan, but because this was part of the Snowy Mountain Alliance. Allies could have personal secrets, but they could not lie. If you did not say it, then that is fine. But if you spoke, it had to be the truth, otherwise the oath would kill you. Ma Hongyun, as his name suggests, has fortune that rivals heaven. If I connect my luck to him, it would be far more effective than Hong Yi and Han Li. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan asked, how reliable is the information that Ma Hongyun has been captured by Qin Baisheng? He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan looked at each other. As Fairy Li Shan said, according to our analysis, there is a 70% chance that we can believe it. During the battle inside the Wind Veil of Assimilation, dozens of Gu immortals from the righteous and demonic path were involved. I was there at the time, it was a chaotic scene. After the battle, everyone had their own guesses on who captured Ma Hongyun, and that resulted in dozens of small conflicts, but they were all proven to be wrong. This time, our information is different from the rumors, we have reason and evidence. Evidently, an insider had purposely leaked the information. Qin Baisheng is a rank 7 lone cultivator Gu immortal, he is a famous expert in the metal path, and also has his blessed land to defend himself. But Ma Hongyun's matter involves giant sun immortal venerables luck path true inheritance. This has too much of an attraction to northern plains Gu immortals. Especially when Qin Baisheng does not have the Huang Jin bloodline, everyone is jealous of him. Fang Yuan nodded, that is to say, this is a troublesome matter. If Ma Hongyun was really captured by Qin Baisheng, then soon, a band of Gu immortals are going to attack Crimson Reed Marsh. That is exactly so. He Lulan laughed heartily, her beautiful black pupils radiating with light. The way I see it, this information should be true to a huge extent. Luckily, Little Ant did not expose her identity this time. When the righteous and demonic Gu immortals team up, they will need Little Ant's mountain pledge Gu. At that time, we will be able to find a chance and intervene in this matter. If there is a chance for us to obtain the luck path true inheritance, we will strike. If not, we will take a step back. Using the time in which that old scoundrel He Qing is engaging in battle, I will have a chance to ascend to immortal. He Lulan was a formidable person, like Fang Yuan, she was very skilled in scheming. Fang Yuan asked coldly, although this was the first time I met He Qing, I can confirm that he is no simple character. If he refuses to join this, what will you do? To He Qing, although the luck path true inheritance was important, it could not compare to his lifespan. There are so many people fighting for the luck path true inheritance, it is like a battle of tigers and wolves. He might as well stay uninvolved and settle the issue of He Lulan instead. Fang Yuan's words directly addressed the problem. He Lulan's brows rose, she replied enthusiastically, I do not have much time left, it has been fortunate I have had Little Ants help these recent days. In half a month, I will have to ascend regardless of the situation. If He Qing comes to find trouble then, it will be a perfect time to deal with him once and for all. In her words, she had already disregarded the possibility of death, her fearless and resolute disposition was fully displayed. That means, there is a possibility I have to fight He Cheng. By then, we cannot escape. In order to protect you, I will to fight him head-on. Fang Yuan's gaze was uncertain. Fairy Li Shan said, Fang Yuan, don't forget, when a Gu master ascends to the realm of immortal, there will be a huge influx of heaven and earth qi. Under that special environment, He Cheng's battle strength would be heavily suppressed. Little Lan's ascension is extremely important. I will be there personally. Together with Tai Bai Yunsheng, we have 3 Gu immortals on our side. He Lu Lan replied graciously and understandingly, Fang Yuan, in order to save me this time, you used fixed immortal travel 3 times, and lost 3 green grape immortal essence beads. You also used 1 bead to activate worldly wave trace Gu. According to our alliance, you will be compensated twice the amount, that is 8 immortal essence stones. That's right. Fang Yuan looked at He Lu Lan. It was so easy for intelligent people to communicate. Fairy Li Shan spoke suddenly, 8 immortal essence stones, I can give that to you right now. But I also have other things, Fang Yuan, perhaps you should take a look, you might be interested in them. Saying this, she took out 2 killer moves and 1 Gu recipe. Fang Yuan looked through them and was very interested. Of the 2 killer moves, one was called Poison Breath, a poison path killer move. It could turn a Gu immortal's breathing into a poisonous gas. The killer move had little strength, but its advantage was sustainability. If a long time passes, the Gu immortal's surroundings would be covered in a layer of poisonous gas. It would unceasingly poison all the surrounding people and things. But this killer move had a flaw, it was easy to hurt oneself. Especially an ordinary Gu immortal's body, they needed to protect and heal their nostrils, throat, and lungs. This weakness was non-existent to an immortal zombie like Fang Yuan. The other killer move was called Kong Xing Tian. Kong Xing Tian was the name of a person, he was the Gu immortal who created this killer move. He was quite famous within Gu master history, he controlled the number 4 Gu in the list of top 10 mystical Gu, Qi Escape Gu. Spring-Autumn Cicada was only ranked at 7th, while Qi Escape Gu was 4th, it was reverse refined from the legendary reputation Gu. In terms of flying speed in a straight line, it was the number 1 Gu in the world, no Gu was its match. And this killer move was also a movement killer move. Back then, Kong Xing Tian referred to Qi Escape Gu to create it. It could open the small pores on the Gu immortal's body and blow out small air currents, causing the Gu immortal to fly forward quickly. Not only was it fast, it could change directions very agilely. The killer move Kong Xing Tian was very suitable to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan had a zombie's body, his body's pores were tough and durable, even if they were destroyed, his terrifying recovery speed would heal them quickly. As for the Gu recipe, it was an ancient strength path Gu recipe, it could refine the rank 5 group strength Gu. Undeniably, these 3 items had been collected by Fairy Li Shan for some time, they were specially prepared for Fang Yuan. They were allies who had made an oath under Snowy Mountain, it was a good thing for Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan for Fang Yuan to be strong. Chapter 679, Immortal Gu is Hungry. Fang Yuan thought a moment and said to Fairy Li Shan, I will take this poison breath killer move and the ancient Gu recipe. How many immortal essence stones for them? Fairy Li Shan replied, Poison breath is 2 immortal essence stones and the group strength Gu's recipe is 2 immortal essence stones as well, so altogether it is 4 immortal essence stones. Fang Yuan nodded, agreeing with Fairy Li Shan's quotation. Poison breath was not an ordinary killer move and was indeed worth 2 immortal essence stones. Group strength Gu might only be a rank 5 mortal Gu, but it was already extinct and as such its high price of 2 immortal essence stones was normal. Fairy Li Shan took out 3 things, but this group strength Gu recipe which was the most unremarkable among them had the greatest attraction to Fang Yuan. However, although the offer was fair, Fang Yuan was low in cash and wanted to haggle to save as many immortal essence stones as possible. Thereupon, he said, This group strength Gu recipe might be rare, but it is an ancient Gu recipe. The refinement materials are very ancient and are now hard to find. Fairy Li Shan smiled. Fang Yuan, I have already considered this. I had originally planned to give this group strength Gu to Little Lan. The reason I am selling it to you now is because the main material in refining this Gu, stone monkey fur, has recently appeared in the market. He Lulan added, right, in Treasure Yellow Heaven, a Gu immortal by the name of Shi Lei who calls himself Immortal Monkey King has managed to research and produce stone monkey fur in his blessed land. This Gu refinement material that had been extinct for countless years has now actually reappeared in his hands, causing quite a big commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. In group strength Gu's recipe, the rarest material is stone monkey fur, while the others might be rare, but as long as you look for them, you will be able to buy them, search for them or find substitutes using your own refinement path foundation. The implied meaning of this was that no haggling would be accepted. Fang Yuan was not discouraged. Stone monkey fur. This ancient material might have reappeared now, but it is entirely monopolized by Immortal Monkey King Shi Lei. The price will definitely not be cheap, right? There is an old saying, good things are not cheap. Fang Yuan, I have personally witnessed your immortal killer move, Miri itself, and I still remember its astonishing might. There is no need for us to continue probing each other. Group strength Gu is worth much more to you than to normal Gu immortals. 2 immortal essence stones is already quite cheap. He Lulan refused to yield any benefits. If the other party understands you clearly, the situation would be rather troublesome to deal with. However, He Lulan was right as well, for immortal essence stones in total was a fair price. Fairy Li Shan did not cheat Fang Yuan of immortal essence stones, but she would not incur losses as well. All right. Fang Yuan observed the situation and did not persist. He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan were not Xianxia land spirit, excessive haggling would only be insulting their intelligence. Both sides completed the transaction shortly afterwards. Fang Yuan obtained the poison breath killer move and the ancient group strength Gu's recipe, as well as 4 immortal essence stones. As for the movement killer move, Kong Xing Tian, it was not suitable for Fang Yuan. Kong Xing Tian opened all the pores in one's body from which air would shoot out and propel the body. This killer move had extreme speed and could also give great flexibility in changing direction. However, the opening of the pores in the whole body would greatly reduce Fang Yuan's defense. Moreover, Fang Yuan's defensive killer move, hair armor, covered the whole body without leaving behind any gaps. If Kong Xing Tian was used, he would not be able to use hair armor. If he used hair armor, Kong Xing Tian could not be used. These two were not compatible. Fang Yuan thus gave up on the killer move Kong Xing Tian. His quantity of immortal essence stones increased to 19.5, but he had huge pressure in converting them to green grape immortal essence and feeding his immortal Gu. Fang Yuan was still lacking in cash and could not casually buy the relatively useless killer move. When leaving, Fang Yuan did not extravagantly use fixed immortal travel, instead opting to use a Stargate. Before leaving, he checked He Lulan's luck. He Lulan was at rank 5 peak stage, her luck could be perceived by the rank 5 luck inspection Gu. He Lulan's luck had already recovered from the extremely low state when she went against Ma Hongyun. Her luck was like a giant pillar with the color of an azure sky, giving a feeling of being long-lasting. He Lulan's luck clearly is at the level of Han Li's and Hong Yi's. From this, it seems her Gu immortal advancement has a high probability of succeeding. But one can't just look at luck in everything, otherwise why would He Lulan die so suddenly in my previous life? One's luck might be good, but it depends on whether they can grasp it. Now it seems, He Cheng might be involved in He Lulan's unexpected death. Although He Lulan's luck was strong, it was written in detail in the Snowy Mountain Alliance that allies could not intentionally inflict harm to each other. Fang Yuan was plagued with bad luck, and connecting his luck with hers would mean having an intent to harm. Moreover, according to his previous life's memories, Fang Yuan was not too optimistic of He Lu Lan's future. Fang Yuan did not have break luck Gu, thus he could not carelessly connect luck and must choose his targets carefully. Back in Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Fang Yuan took out 8 Immortal Essence Stones and converted them to his own Green Grape Immortal Essence. He had used fixed immortal travel many times, going back and forth from Western Desert, Central Continent, Eastern Sea, and Northern Plains. He also used Worldly Wave Trace Gu in the fight against Heicheng, using up a total of 6 Green Grape Immortal Essence. He originally had 17 Green Grape Immortal Essence beads, but only 11 remained now. In consideration of the frequent battles recently, Fang Yuan refined 8 Immortal Essence Stones and increased his Green Grape Immortal Essence to 19 beads. With this, the amount of Immortal Essence Stones on Fang Yuan was 11.5. Fang Yuan reviewed his battle with Heicheng and felt satisfied about it. Whether the result was victory or defeat was of no concern to Fang Yuan. He would not become angry or feel humiliated just because of failure. He would also not feel overjoyed and arrogant because of victory. What he prioritized were the gains and losses. He used up 4 beads of Green Grape Immortal Essence in this battle, but was able to obtain even more trust from He Lu Lan and Fairy Li Shan. At the same time, he also obtained 4 Immortal Essence Stones, the Poison Breath Killer Move and Group Strength Gu's recipe. He had clearly made a good profit. But if I were to speak of a loss, it would be Worldly Wave Trace Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan took out the Immortal Gu Worldly Wave Trace. Right now, the Immortal Gu's aura was no longer as stable as before and revealed a trace of weakness. The Gu worm did not have a healthy luster, instead appearing dark and gloomy. Fang Yuan was aware of why Worldly Wave Trace Gu was not fed properly back at Imperial Court Blessed Land. When the Wind Veil of Assimilation appeared, Mo Yao's will activated Water Pavilion to battle, and after I obtained her Gu worms, I activated this Immortal Gu several times. It has already reached a certain limit and need to be fed. If it is still not fed and I activate it excessively, it might die from hunger. Worldly Wave Trace Gu was the first Immortal Gu in Fang Yuan's possession that was crying of hunger. It could be foreseen that as time passed, many more Immortal Gu would cry out in hunger and would need to be fed. However, Worldly Wave Trace Gu's food was tens of thousands of underworld jellyfish and thousands of deep-sea lightning eels. Fang Yuan inquired little who Immortal Land Spirit. After Tai Bai Yunxing left, the Land Spirit took over Tai Bai Yunxing's work of paying attention to movements in Treasure Yellow Heaven. However, although Fang Yuan had taken the initiative to post requests for the goods in Treasure Yellow Heaven, there were few who responded. This was not a highly commercialized society like that on Earth, the economy here was not developed and one could not buy whatever they wanted to buy. Fang Yuan used Moving Perspective Cup Gu to send a letter to Tai Bai Yunxing. Tai Bai Yunxing gave him a piece of good news. He had already arrived at Hai Shi Blessed Land and smoothly got into contact with some Gu immortals. Moreover, he also saw someone selling underworld jellyfishes in Hai Shi Blessed Land. Only deep-sea lightning eels were rarely seen as Gu immortals had to enter the deep sea to capture them, which was not only dangerous, the sea areas where they were abundant were already controlled by Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance housed the headquarters of Zombie Alliance within all 5 regions. They were very powerful, a level stronger than even the super forces of Eastern Sea. Explore. Todd. TE Stories at L//bin.c.M. Thus, Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance was domineering and rampant in their actions. They blockaded several large sea regions and controlled the large numbers of resources within themselves. This maintained and fostered their strength, making them become even more domineering to others. Tai Bai Yunsheng suggested Fang Yuan to join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance and then purchase the deep-sea lightning eels internally. This was not only convenient, the price within Zombie Alliance would also be cheaper than outside. Fang Yuan was moved, but he had ascended to Gu Immortal in Northern Plains. His immortal aperture had Northern Plains heaven and earth chi. There were differences between the heaven and earth chi of the 5 regions. With just a simple test, one's origins would be clear. It was not impossible for Fang Yuan to join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance with the status of a Northern Plains Immortal Zombie status. But he had to join Northern Plains Zombie Alliance for his major plan. This major plan had huge prospective yield, and Fang Yuan had been thinking of risking an act of disguise even if he was not an immortal zombie to join Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. However, as an immortal zombie now, it was no doubt much more convenient to join Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. Joining Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance might make it convenient to purchase lightning eels, but if Tai Bai Yunsheng is given some time to make connections, he would be able to purchase them, just that the price might be a bit higher. Although I won't be able to activate Worldly Wave Trace Gu as much as I wish, it should hold on for some time. Fang Yuan was not willing to give up on his major plan, thus he refused Tai Bai Yunsheng's suggestion in the end. After resting and reorganizing for a while in Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Fang Yuan activated Fixed Immortal Travel to arrive at Central Continent again. Universal Life Academy was located in Mountain Valley, and under the curtain of night, lights were lit up, making it appear quiet and tranquil. Hong Yi was sitting cross-legged on the bed, finishing his daily routine of nourishing his aperture. He opened his eyes, his pupils shining brightly, revealing a look of expectation and excitement. I have placed in the top 10 in today's competition without even having to reveal my true strength. Heaven is helping me, letting me coincidentally get a bye in the competition. People are treating me as just a lucky fellow. Tomorrow is the competition of the 10 strongest, they will underestimate me and won't expect my true strength. The day after tomorrow is the decisive battle. As long as I use this Gu to break the opponent's defense, there is no need to mention what will happen next. As he thought of this, Hong Yi took out a rank 2 Gu worm, Rewind. This was an extremely rare time path Gu worm which could be used to both attack and defend. Its ability was to rewind an enemy's Gu worm to its state before the activation. For instance, the enemy condensed a fireball, but under Rewind Gu's power, the Gu worm would return back to before activation and the fireball would disappear. However, Rewind Gu had extremely huge demand on primeval essence. Even Hong Yi with his A-grade aperture and over 90% primeval essence could only activate it once. Chapter 680, Ji Forest, Earth Horse. Hong Yi had decided long ago, he was going to use Rewind Gu to deal with his opponent's defensive Gu. As long as the other party did not use 2 defensive Gu at the same time, Hong Yi would just need to hit the opponent's body with 1 strike to heavily injure him, obtaining victory. But if the opponent had 2 defensive Gu activated at the same time, Hong Yi would not go on the offensive immediately, he would start a drawn-out battle. The enemy would definitely expend primeval essence faster than him if he uses 2 defensive Gu. One could say, with this Gu in Hong Yi's hands, he had a great advantage, he was most likely the winner of this competition. If I get first, Mother's memorial tablet would be placed in the ancestral hall, she would be given a proper status. Suddenly, Hong Yi frowned. For one instant, he felt like his heart was empty, like something precious had been stolen from him. Don't tell me, because my wish is finally going to be fulfilled, I am starting to feel apprehensive. There is nothing valuable on me besides Rewind Gu, what could be worth stealing? Hong Yi shook his head, he laughed bitterly, forgetting that weird sensation he felt earlier. Far away in the valley, Fang Yuan breathed out deeply, connect luck succeeded. For the luck connection this time, he purposely made the best use of his time, rushing here immediately after resting in Hu Immortal Blessed Land for a while, thus, he did not come across any surprising disturbances. Fang Yuan used luck inspection Gu to check Hong Yi's luck. His luck was previously milky white color, it was very special, giving people a feeling of vigor and vitality. His luck was gathered into a lump, forming the tall image of a scholar sitting and reading. The scholar's image was rather similar to Hong Yi, he had a lively expression. But after connecting with Fang Yuan, this white scholar luck shrunk, it was not even 30% of the original. The scholar's clean and smooth robe became a tattered shirt with random patches sewed onto it everywhere to maintain it. It was like a rich young master had turned into a poor man's child, a pitiful student. His expression was not so lively anymore, his face was thinner and his expression was darker, like he had experienced a terrible encounter. It seems that connecting my luck to these targets had its use. When I connected my luck to Honli, I almost killed him. But this time, the connection to Hong Yi did not cause his luck to become deathly luck. It seems my own luck has improved greatly. Fang Yuan was gratified in his mind. Just when he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a tug in his heart. He found 2 hidden Gu masters lurking in this valley. In order to undergo the luck connection, Fang Yuan had set up many Gu worms near Universal Life Academy's valley. On one hand, he wanted to conceal the aura of the immortal Gu, but it was also to surveil the surroundings and provide early warnings to him. One could say that the entire valley was under Fang Yuan's supervision. Fang Yuan closed his eyes and concentrated. These 2 hidden Gu masters were not weak, they were rank 5 Gu masters. They were at the other end of the valley, secretly moving while talking softly. Sect leader Fan Yi, are you sure that there is a Ji forest and earth horses underneath the surface of this valley? Valley Lord Yuan Bai, there is no mistake, I saw it personally. Don't be anxious, follow me into the cavern, when you see it for yourself, won't you believe me? Humph, this is the territory of Universal Life Academy, if the principal of Universal Life Academy, Hong Xianxia, discovers us, we will be forced to bear the consequences of failure. Although Hong Xianxia is strong, he is lacking in investigative methods, otherwise, he would have found the great resources lying here already. We are intentionally hiding ourselves while he is unaware, how can he discover us? Sigh, if we are discovered, our reputations would be ruined, the leaders of 2 sects venturing into Universal Life Academy late at night. Fang Yuan heard the entirety of their conversation. Ji forest, earth horses. He thought. Ji forests grew underground, usually for dozens of li. The lingji inside were as large as trees, their meat was plump and juicy, they could be fed to Gu worms, used as Gu refinement materials or sold. Earth horses were mutated beasts native to Ji forests. There were usually 2 or 3 in a single portion of Ji forest, they lived as a family. The hoof of the earth horse was the main ingredient of the rank 5 earth escape Gu. The eyes of the earth horse could refine the X-ray vision Gu, the tail hair of the earth horse could refine the smoke dust Gu. RE. Add updated ST. Rise at n/vel/bin.com. The earth horse's body was full of treasures, it was no wonder the 2 rank 5 Gu masters, Valley Lord Yuan Bai and sect leader Fan Yi, were interested. But to Fang Yuan, the earth horses and Ji forest did not have any appeal. An earth horse was a mutated beast that could be on par with a myriad beast king. But a family of earth horses was only 2 to 3 myriad beast kings. There were many people selling Ji forests in Treasure Yellow Heaven, it was a common good and did not even require immortal essence stones to purchase. But for Universal Life Academy, the underground Ji forest is a huge benefit and an important stockpile of resources. Unfortunately, they are still kept in the dark now. Fang Yuan thought about it, he followed behind the 2 rank 5 Gu masters from afar, successfully entering the underground Ji forest. As he estimated, this was an ordinary Ji forest, it was about 10 li in size, and there were 3 earth horses. They were a family living in the Ji forest. What a huge Ji forest! Sect leader Fan Yi exclaimed as he walked in the forest. This is a land of treasures, why did it not appear in my valley? Sigh. Valley Lord Yuan Bai touched the branches of the Lingji, saying in jealousy. Fang Yuan took a detour around them and got to the center of the Ji forest. There was the largest Lingji here, it was 6 meters tall, reaching the ceiling of the cave. The flesh of the Lingji was like a huge umbrella, spreading out in a circular manner. This was the Lingji king. Fang Yuan lowered his head and came to the Lingji king. Next to the Lingji king, there were 3 earth horses guarding it, along with some metal-consuming ant groups. Among the ant groups, there were some wild metal path gu, and the Lingji king also had some wild wood path gu worms. But these were all mortal. Fang Yuan did not conceal his immortal zombie aura, he came here without any obstruction. Fang Yuan stretched out one monstrous claw, grabbing the stalk of the Lingji king. The Lingji king trembled intensely, causing the ceiling of the cave to shake and debris to fall. The earth horses were suppressed by Fang Yuan's immortal zombie aura, they did not dare to get close, and only made cries from afar. After Fang Yuan searched for a while, he pulled back his zombie claw. In his monstrous claw, there was a heart. This was the Lingji king's heart, it was soft and hot, the surface was milky white, this was completely made of Lingji flesh and gave off a meaty fragrance. As long as I plant this Lingji king's heart, soon, a new forest will form. Fang Yuan took the treasure from right under their noses. The soil of Hu immortal blessed land was not suited to plant large areas of Ji forests. But to sustain a small area of it, there were no issues, of course, there were also not much benefits in doing so. Fang Yuan was doing this purely for fun. As for this huge Ji forest and the earth horses, Fang Yuan had no need for them. It was troublesome and time-consuming to move them into Hu immortal blessed land. He would rather purchase them directly in Treasure Yellow Heaven if needed, it was more convenient. After losing the heart, the Lingji king would not die, but the Ji forest would stop growing, it would have to recuperate for over a decade. What sound is that? Far away, Yuan Bai and Fan Yi glanced at each other. Fang Yuan taking away the Lingji king's heart caused quite a commotion, along with the wailing horses. But when Yuan Bai and Fan Yi got to the Lingji king, Fang Yuan had vanished without a trace, he had left. The remaining earth horse family exerted their anger and furious emotions on the 2 of them instead. The intense battle quickly attracted the attention of Universal Life Academy. Hong Xianji led a band of Gu masters and rushed here, in shock and joy. Yuan Bai and Fan Yi sighed in their hearts, feeling extremely unlucky. After an intense battle, Hong Xianji chased away Yuan Bai and Fan Yi. He gave orders to the elders of the academy who were in ecstasy. The matter of the Ji forest is extremely important. From today onwards, we will halt the sect competition, and call back the disciples and elders who are out on missions. From now on, there will certainly be difficulties. Yuan Bai and Fan Yi are sure to gather other sects to exert pressure on us. We have to defend this Ji forest, it is our foundation to rise up. Yes, Lord Principal. The Gu masters responded. On the other hand, Hong Yi, who was sound asleep, had no idea that the sect competition that he was looking forward to had been cancelled. His desire to give his mother a proper status, that dream was going to have to be delayed for a long time. Swish swish swish. Waves were crashing on Fang Yuan's face, but such mild force could not make him feel anything. This place was not in Central Continent, it was in Southern Border. The river before him was the number 2 river of Southern Border, Jade Dragon River. Southern Border had 3 great rivers, the first was Red Dragon River, the second was Jade Dragon River, and the third was Yellow Dragon River. Red Dragon River had water red as blood, Jade Dragon River had green waves in it, while Yellow Dragon River was something Fang Yuan had traveled on in this life. It was yellow in color and had the most sediments. Fang Yuan toyed with the Lingji King's heart in his hands. After taking this heart, he did not leave immediately using fixed immortal travel. He went to a corner of the valley and left behind many goo worms before activating fixed immortal travel. These goo worms all self-detonated as he was leaving, eliminating the aura of fixed immortal travel. By doing this he could avoid anyone tracing him. Right now, he was waiting for a person. This person was another one of his targets. He had amazing luck and many fortuitous encounters, rising to a legend from a nobody. During the 5 regions chaotic war, he was a rank 7 Gu immortal, a famous person on the same level as Hong Yi and Han Li. But different from Han Li who joined a clan later, and Hong Yi who was a member of a sect, this person was a lone cultivator from start to finish. He had several good friends and family, but he did not join a particular force. When Fang Yuan was about to self-detonate in his previous life, there were rumors that Central Continent's Heavenly Court was about to recruit him. As for whether this information was true or not, Fang Yuan had no way to verify it. But now that Fang Yuan had been reborn, that was not important. In my memories, this person had been ostracized his entire life after his clan banished him. By this riverside, he obtained the inheritance of a rank 4 Gu master. It was just enough for him to use. Using this inheritance, he earned a living while repelling the dangers of the wild. He grew stronger step by step, grabbing onto a huge opportunity and obtaining the black-yellow Mother Chi Gu, the inheritance of a Daoist master. He won 9 out of 10 times when rock gambling, and dominated all of the southern border gambling dens. Fang Yuan recalled. He knew this place due to the biography of Yi Fan. Every important person's history was usually recorded down in words and pictures. Yi Fan was Fang Yuan's target this time. And here was the start of Yi Fan's rise. Tonight, he would have his first fortuitous encounter.